our class today, the University Online Learning course, uh, by greeting our listening audience and welcoming as well my fellow class members. And it's certainly a blessing to be in a learning environment like we have in front of us. Uh, you know, I always ask you to do your 10 things you have to be grateful for. Well, maybe that should be one of them, you should be grateful for being in this class. Uh, we're looking forward, as always, to what the source creator is bringing to us through us. That's the way it happens, right? Allah uses everything in his creation to bring messages to our mind. Use everything as words, and W.D. Muhammad told us back in the early part of his leadership that anything that brings a message to your mind is a word, and words make people. He shared that with us. So we definitely want to be part of this creative process of making and remaking, if you will, our own selves, being co-creators in this universe. By that I mean that Allah tells us that He's the best of creators, which suggests that we are also creators, not the creator, but we are also creators. So this class environment is one that will help us in that source creator given opportunity and blessing to be able to create the life that you want for yourself. But it's not done haphazardly. Instructor Benjamin Bilal wants you to know that today the class will be advanced. He likes to call it deep sea diving. So have your uh, your snorkels and goggles or whatever you need to accomplish that ready. But he said he thinks you can handle it. So to be ready for that, but that's how you prepare yourself to be able to create the kind of life you want for yourself. You can't do it and remain at the same level of thinking that you were at yesterday. No, Allah created this creation in such a way that it's designed to grow, which means designed to change and not to remain the same day in and day out. Now, we have been locked into a conditioning of ritualism with this world, and same is true in the world of Muslims. Of course, it's throughout the whole world, whether you call yourself Muslim, Christian, Jew, Hindu, Buddhist, it doesn't matter, atheist, agnostic, uh, whatever you call yourself, spiritualist. We have been locked into different types of ritual. Rituals won't uh, give you the ability to create the life you want for yourself, but routines will. And knowing that you have the ability to develop the kind of routine that you practice day in and day out, you can decide that. You can decide what you're going to do with your life and how you're going to uh, program your life going forward. Yes, you can reprogram. You're not doomed because you've been programmed against your own selves today. No, you're not doomed. You're not stuck with that. So this class environment will give you the tools to do that. And for us to spend time at the beginning of the class uh, writing down in our gratitude journal at least 10 things that you're grateful for, that helps puts us in the right spirit, in the right frame of mind, in the right frame of heart even, where you're ready to receive the information that's being shared by our international instructor, Benjamin Bilal. Now, he mentioned the last strong end, we don't call them weekends, but on the last class, last Sunday, uh, he mentioned that if you wanted to take a deeper dive into what a Muslim is, as he was describing uh, in terms of those three levels of peace. Yes, he did do a series of presentation of classes back in, I believe it was in February, around the time that he did the presentation at the junior college there in Tennessee. Uh, and it was in three parts, by the way. Today we're having the second part of the difference between Muslim and Mu'min. So we're looking forward to that. We're excited about it. Uh, and I'm anxious as always to hear what Allah has in store for us. And again, we're all uh, connected. I like to refer to uh, people that I'm associated with, but not only that, no, in a larger sense, but especially people I'm associated with, we're connected, which means that I have uh, a responsibility to you. You have responsibility to me, to share. And the more we do that, participate in this connectivity, and the more we entertain that same kind of a process of learning, the more the learning will become a part of you. So our daily routines help practice, what we're preaching, so to speak, to practice what we're learning. So you learn something, and you practice by not only hearing it again and again and again, but studying it, using the process that we've developed in Nunetics method to look deeper and deeper and deeper into the words, into the letters, even into the frequencies that we're uh, coming more and more exposed to. But you practice it, and the more you practice it, the more it becomes a part of a working part of your own consciousness. And from your consciousness, you and I create our tomorrow. And so it's very important. There's so many things happening around the world for us to really focus on what we want in the world, not what we don't want, but what we want in the world. And we start by looking at what we want in our own world, individually, for ourselves, for our families, extending to our relatives, the neighborhood, our ethnic group, the nation, uh, the world of humanity, even the universe. We have to have a vision for the future, a future vision. As we look at that vision that we want, it helps give more meaning to the routines that we practice every day. So it's just not, see, one way to look at the difference between a ritual and a routine is that the routine has meaning behind it, and it has meaning in terms of where you're trying to go. And if you don't project, if you don't have an expectation of what you want to happen tomorrow, then you lose control of your own life. The control is given to you by the source creator. You know, but if you will have a sense of tapping into, of listening deeply to yourself, getting quiet, practicing the meditation, the concentration, uh, and even the what's the other level there? Concentration, meditation, and the contemplation, of actually thinking, okay, uh, getting myself quiet. I'm going to focus on my future vision. I have this expectation of having better days ahead of me. This is what they look like. This is what I want them to look like. This is the ideal life that I see for myself. This is my human excellence being manifested, being demonstrated, being guiding me in how I relate to myself, how I relate to my family, my loved ones, how I relate to my neighbors, strangers, to even to my enemies. I have this expectation of what I want to see in the future. It's very important, Allah has given us the power. So no matter what's happening on the outside, there are expectations that this will be a banner year for the stock market, and it may be, or we may have a crash. I mean, only Allah knows. But whatever happens, you know, we have a new president in. He's coming like he's on a downhill slide, uphill climb, but he's coming in with a head of steam, you know. So that means there's going to be a lot of changes, a lot of things that we like, and a lot of things that we may not like. Uh, but we don't worry about that if we are uh, have a vision of what you want for your tomorrow. You're taking advantage of this class. That's my point. Taking advantage of the class by not, again, allowing yourself just to be entertained, but to take the materials, listen to it, study it. Uh, as instructor left a hint out for us last week. He said, if you want to look further into this concept of three levels of peace, then go back. If you haven't done that, then you're not hearing what I'm saying right now. If you haven't pulled up the lectures from the past to go deeper to understand what was given to us just last Sunday, then you haven't captured the value of what we're presenting in our classes each Sunday. That's what I'm encouraging you to take what we're doing seriously. This can help you form the life that you want for yourself and your family, the information that we're learning. So with that, it looks like our international instructor is ready to take this walking stick and do what he does best, man. I wouldn't want to be next, sitting next to somebody else in class more so than our international instructor, Benjamin Bilal. And I think he's ready to go.
Yes, indeed. Alhamdulillah. And thank you so much. That was such a wonderful opening. Whenever I hear you open up like that, it just makes me want to just ask you to keep going because you're saying things that people need to hear. We've said most of it before, but some people don't get it the first time. So I'm very thankful that I have the kind of assistant in yourself that is able to articulate words that I've used before and concepts that we've shared before in a way where people may have heard it for the first time and they're able to benefit from it because they are now paying attention. And you know what I say about paying attention? Whatever you pay attention to expands. So we're going to have an expanded presentation today, not in terms of time, but in terms of depth. We're going to be going deep into some rabbit holes. We're going to be going deep into the well of understanding with the intention of making us all well. That's the purpose of going into the well, because the water there is pure, it's more advantageous, better for your health, and clearer in terms of what needs to be done to increase the vision. And this Nunetics class is all about increasing your vision, your 2020, through the use of the Quran's 30:30. 30th Surah, 30th Ayah, which speaks about al-fitrah and how the entire creation is based on al-fitrah. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in just a moment. Let me open up properly with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And that is with Allah's signature, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. Allah has been so merciful to us. If I were to tell you half of what is, I believe, going to happen in the very near future for the Nunetics course and for you as individual Nunetics learners and instructors, you might not believe me. So I don't speak on some things because I wait for further proof, but Allah has shown me all of the proof that I need to let me know what a wonderful experience being in this Nunetics class is going to be between now and I'd even say the next 6 months, if that long. There are some promising future endeavors that I believe Allah is going to allow us to come into, that's going to spread the knowledge of Nunetics far and wide, not only across this country, but across the entire planet, or at least particular parts of the planet. I have a personal feeling as though Allah is preparing something very special for us in this new day and in this new season. I don't know if you've noticed, but the whole world is in the process of entering into a whole new a whole brand new season. And it's the season, as I call it, of the Quran. Now, not a whole lot of people know that. If you're reading the Quran, you know it. That every day a new day hits here and activities happen on this planet. And I say that's in the Quran. But we can say that all day long and every day about the Quran. But I mean specifically now, I mean everything from what's going on in the culture, what's going on in the politics, what's going on in the academics, and what's going on in the religions, especially around the world. You would know that this is actually what Imam Muhammad also called the day of Deen. And uh, he changed it around a little bit and he said, well, we're not living in the day of the Deen. He said, but we are living in a day in the Deen. There's a difference, but you have to study. I told you this is going to be a deep seated, not a deep seated, but a deep dive ride today. This is just the intro. But I said that the way I said it because I need for you to pay specific attention to everything that's said today and pay attention also to things that are not said that you thought might have been said because it sounded like I was going that way, but I switched courses at the last second. So pay attention. We begin with Allah's signature, and his signature brings us excess in terms of mercy, in terms of insight, in terms of forgiveness. All of those things are part of Allah's rahmah. It's dealing specifically with how life develops when we talk about the arham, what they call the wombs that bore us and that bore all life forms on this planet. We're talking about a specific science related to how things grow and develop, and how Allah is the overarching power behind every single thing that has life and that continues to grow and develop. That's Allah as Ar-Rahman. He's giving that energy to every living thing. He does not judge these things on a moral level as Ar-Rahman, not initially. He gives every life form a chance. But if we're talking particularly about the human life form, he gives human beings chance after chance after chance after chance after chance. And these chances appear as challenges to us. And some of what we're going to be talking about today in terms of the differences between a Muslim and a Mu'min, you're going to notice some very stark differences in that graduation, as I like to call it, from Muslim to Mu'min. I know all of us are happy about being a Muslim. So we say, you know, I took Shahada, I'm a Muslim. But you're not quite clear yet on actually what makes you a Muslim. And you're going to be very surprised to find out that there are some other qualifications that you need to come into. And there are some things that you thought were qualifications that you need to bow out of because it has nothing to do with the deen. And that is what William mentioned as just useless rituals, things that have no real end. They have no real value at the end of the road for you, as opposed to the things that Allah has asked us to do on a frequent basis. And those things amount to routines. A routine is built into the word route. A routine should put you on a route. See, a ritual does not put you on a route. A routine puts you on a route, and a route has a beginning and a conclusion. The beginning and the conclusion is attached to the R-O-U-T-E, the route. Some people say route, which is an interesting word also when you consider the other word that sounds like R-O-O-T, root. Yeah, because they're both designed to root you. The route is designed also to root you. In what? Reality. Deen al-Fitrah is the ultimate insight into what's called reality. It should actually be called ality and not reality. Re means you did something over again. This is how slick they are in the language. So Allah did not necessarily create reality in the real sense of that word. He created something called the ality, which they took out of the English language many, many years ago because they didn't want you to know that you were living in an ality, because ality is, there are too many hints in that little word right there that we don't use anymore. It's defunct now, but there are too many hints in there because ality is connected to the word Allah, which is an Arabic word. It's all throughout the Quran. It's in your greeting. Salam alaikum. Salam alaikum. Ala ality. And that's exactly what it's referring to. It's referring to the extent of things that human beings can know as information that's designed to put them on top of the world, actually. Yeah, there are things that Allah wants us to know that are designed by Allah to put us on top of the world. That's what ala means. It means on top of, but it means on top of as a responsibility for the thing that you're riding. So if you want to ride the world, if you want to ride the business world, you want to ride the banking world, you want to ride the academic world, you want to ride the religious world or the cultural world and all of those things, you first and foremost have to see yourself as being responsible for the thing that you are up on. See? Salam alaikum, salam upon. You're up on that thing. And if you're on top of a camel or you're on top of a horse or whatever, then you're supposed to have the controls. So when Allah says salam alaikum to all of us, it means that He is making us responsible for the peace, or whatever that word salam means. He's making us responsible, but He's making the thing that we're riding reciprocally responsible to us to get us to our destination safely. But we're also responsible to that creature. We got to let it rest. We got to give it some water, feed it, and all of those things. If it's the car, we got to change the oil. We got to put more gas in the car. So if we're not good to the vehicle is not going to be that great to us. So if we want to get the full benefit of what this thing is called salam, if we want to get the full benefit, we had better learn its features. And its feature is tied into the fitrah. That's why we continue to study the fitrah. Let me bring up my notes and get this linguistic party started. All right, stand by. All right. Once again, here we are on this Sunday, January 26th, 2025. I am your international instructor, Benjamin Bilal, and we're going to be speaking once again on the difference between Muslim and Mu'min according to our Nunetics method of determining meanings for letters. As all of you know by now, this is part 2, probably the conclusion, probably. So let's begin by asking the pertinent question, what is a Muslim? We spoke about this last week, so I'm going to do a quick review of what we gave as the meanings for the letters Sin and Lam, and we ended before we were able to complete what the letter Mim means. Those 3 letters comprise the word, the letters that explain to us what a Muslim is, the S, the L, and the M. So the letter S in Arabic is called the Sin, S-E-E-N, and it represents things that cover over and protect, like your skin. It represents this bottom lip. You can pull it down and it covers over the goatee, or not the goatee, but the whatever you call this little tuft of hair that men have. Right? It covers over that. The eyelids, you can pull them down, right? If you have a shroud, it covers and protects. And it also represents things that surround you. So even a wall is able to be used to describe what the letter Sin is. Anything that surrounds you and protects you. And it also means to cause to shine like the sun. And the sunlight, as we said last week, it also serves as a covering of protection, even for the physical body. The vitamins that come from the sun are protecting and nourishing your very skin and your very body and your very bones. The sunlight is doing that. The letter sin also means to diminish, to fall, to droop down, to experience decline. It's in the Arabic word safala. Hmm? Yeah, Allah says, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ سَافِلِينَ. Asfala safilin means to fall and hit dirt, rock bottom, dirt, just hit the ground, hit the asphalt. The English word asphalt comes from this verb safala, asphalt. It's in the word for sajda, which is the lowest position you can go, right? When you put your pineal gland to the ground, that's what you're doing when you make sajda. You're causing a rush of blood to head towards the one of the most significant parts of the human body. That's the pineal gland, as they call it. Some say pineal gland. All right. And even a secret is shrouded in mystery, or I can't wait to find out who done it, that kind of thing. So that's the letter sin. The next letter, lam, is the tongue, which is used for both eating and communication. It represents things that are loose, things that are relaxed, things that are floppy, limp, limber, lazy, things that are liberated are under that letter lam also. Flexible. No, I'm sorry. I skipped a line here. Okay. Yeah, liberated or linked. Linked. The tongue is actually linked inside of your mouth. You can't just reach in and just snatch it out, and you're going to have some serious pain because this is linked to the back of the mouth. Also, things that are extended, like ahl. That's the Arabic word for family. We say ahlil kitab, family of the book. They translate that, right? Ahl. And it has lam in it. Things that are long, flexible, and flowing, like labisa, that's clothing. The clothing that you see many people, especially in the Middle East, wearing, that's kind of long gowns and flowing and, that kind of thing, right? Things that cleave, there are many people who can actually cleave their tongues. And, you've seen people stick their tongues out and kind of, fold it in half while it's in the mouth. I'm like, whoa, who are these people? But they're able to do that. They're able to cause a separation. Uh, Also, you have a lasso that's extended, right? That's the lasso, and also the lash. So also things that are extended like a shepherd's goad, a shepherd's hook that's used to both push and pull the sheep. We went over this in meticulous detail last week, so simply scroll back when we're finished with this particular webinar and look at the last week's presentation. Lam is also the tongue which communicates questions and answers, instructions which can be extended to others. We can have an extended conversation on any topic, right? That's the tongue providing that for you because of the letter lam representing that which you extend, like the shepherd's hook. You want to pull the sheep back, put the hooked end out, grab it around the neck, pull it towards yourself. You want the sheep to go in a particular direction of safety, put the hooked end in your hand, stick the straight end out, and point the way for the sheep. Lamb also indicates taste and discretion as a negative trait. It represents becoming bitter, sarcastic, lambasting, and biting. The dog lows out its tongue for ventilation. Therefore, lamb can represent the venting of emotional expression where the tongue literally falls out of its mouth. That's safala also. And lamb also represents that which is lifted because the tongue, in order to even pronounce the sound of the L, has to lift itself up and touch the top palate inside your mouth. See, we don't think about these things, but this is how these letters came about. These letters are the first form of science in terms of communication. They represent levels of scientific insight when you think about what each one of these letters do. To pronounce each and every one of these letters, whether it be in Arabic or English, you have to have your mouth doing certain moves, certain activities, certain functions. For a vowel, it has to be open. I, E, I, O, E, U, that it's got to be open. But for all of these consonants, the tongue is doing different things. You need to focus on that. And during the day, just sit where you are quietly and pronounce the letter B, B, B. See what your mouth is doing. What's happening with your lips? How many of the lips? You got two of them. How many of the lips are in play when you're pronouncing the letter B or B, B, B? See? Yeah, you say, well, the top one and the bottom one. That's correct. But how many are in play when you're pronouncing the letter F? See, it's not both of them then. It's not both lips. It's just your bottom lip touching your two top front teeth. See, F, 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 F. And it goes on and on from there with each and every one of those letters. So make that a part of your homework every day. Do that. And when you're not doing anything, and that's probably most of the day for most people, they're not really doing anything. They're sitting watching television or listening to music or, doing something like that. But you can be doing these exercises just see, that's what I mean by rituals as opposed to routines. If you make that a routine, you're going to learn these letters a lot quicker. Just pronounce them in your mouth to yourself or to somebody else and say, how many parts of my mouth am I using when I pronounce this letter right here, sister or wife or husband or whoever? They're most likely they're not even doing anything too much of the time, especially on the weekends. So just play that little consonantal connection game with them, Tell me what parts of the mouth are in play when I pronounce the letter T or T or D, and see how accurate they are with it. All right. So we're up to the letter meme. This is where we left off. We just let some more people in here. Yeah. We're up to the letter meme, the M sound. And meme represents the stomach, an area of the stomach which is contained, but whose size grows and shrinks based on circumstances. It's contained within your body, and it grows and shrinks based on the circumstances. How much did you eat tonight? How much did you not eat tonight? Yeah, you got strange sounds coming from your stomach when you don't eat. And sometimes you got stranger sounds coming from your stomach after you eat and a few other places of the body. Right? So it represents substances entering the stomach that become liquefied. And it represents any life-sustaining liquid like milk, water, blood, not Pepsi and Coca-Cola. They don't qualify for meme. Not even orange juice qualifies because orange juice is not life-sustaining. It has to be a life-sustaining fluid or liquid to qualify as meme. Meme also represents mass. Big things like the ocean, that water, the sea. See? That water. That's meme. It represents multiplication because things that are massive because there are many. You see all these M's I'm using? Because there are many of them. If he has massive muscles, it's because he has many muscles. You see how I'm using the M in just these simple English sentences? So from now on, when you're reading just your regular literature, or if you're especially reading the Quran, you stop at these letters and you start to apply the logic of what I'm teaching you right now to each one of those words, especially if they begin with these letters. Muslim, and that's M as a prefix, but it still applies. So it represents accumulation, things that grow to be many things. Meme concerns itself with the overall non-specific quantities and qualities of things. You see, we could talk about a lot of something, but we can be very specific about a lot of ships floating in the sea. And we know we're talking specifically about boats or ships. But meme represents those things that have quantities and qualities that are non-specific. If I say sama, That means the sky. Okay. You can't tell me everything that's up there. You can't really specify. And depending on what day and time you look up there, it's going to be different things. Sometimes it'll be clear sky, blue sky, when you can see the sun. Other times it will be overcast and you won't be able to see the sun, but you'll be able to experience its light. Sama, all right. Ilm, that's knowledge. Can you weigh knowledge? No. How much knowledge do you have? You can just say, I have a lot of knowledge. You can't qualify it, though. You can't quantify it. You can't put it on a scale and then say, I have so many pounds and so many ounces of knowledge. You can't do that because the meme is non-specific. The medda as a vowel that we put over Arabic words, it stretches or elongates the sound of that vowel that's over that particular consonant. Some scholars say, yeah, you can do it by 3 beats. Like they say, Allah has a medda over it. The lamb has a medda over it. So you can elongate it, they say. All right. Or let's go back to the one we were discussing. The sama'. The sama' has a medda over it also. So what does that mean? That means that as I'm pronouncing it or as I am articulating it, I don't have to give it the regular 2 or 3 beats that the Arabic professor says that I can give it. I can do that as just a method of regular pronunciation, but if I'm reciting it, then I can give that medda. I can extend it as long as I want to because it's non-specific. You get it? It's non-specific. We have the word fahm, which means understanding. Fahm, understanding. How much understanding do you have? Can you quantify it? You can't even qualify it. It's non-specific. That's what the meme is doing. So pay attention to that. Now we're going to go a little bit deeper. And we're going to talk about this word salam in a way that I have not discussed necessarily in the past. S-A-L-A-A-M, salam. Salam is not just any peace, as I mentioned last week. Salam represents a comprehensive peace, a peace that covers and protects. That's the meaning for the letter sin. It's a peace that covers and protects all areas of the external life. So your skin covers your entire body. The sense of touch is the only sense out of your 5 basic senses that covers the entire body. Your eyes don't do it, your nose it doesn't do it, your hearing doesn't do it, your smelling doesn't do it, but your skin, your sense of touch, yeah, it's from the top of your head all the way to the bottoms of your feet. It's comprehensive, your skin. This piece is also indicated in the role of amniotic fluid in the womb because that amniotic fluid is covering you from head to toe, but on the outside of your body. It's called amniotic fluid. And you can see the hint of the AMN in the word amniotic because they're getting these concepts and they are expounding and expanding upon these concepts through their reading and study of Al-Quran. Trust me when I tell you that. It's not the only literature they're reading, but that's the main literature that they went to in order to come back with these expansive concepts. And it is what is in part responsible for producing the European Renaissance in Europe once the Muslims touched down in Europe. Firstly, in Spain, the Muslim Moors. So the Europeans were soaking this up. The Bible, unfortunately, didn't give them this level of wisdom because they called the book, they called the Bible, they called that period that they were living in the Dark Ages. And they didn't know what to do with the wisdom that was in the Bible until the Quran came. Then all of a sudden you had people popping up called Masons and Shriners and these kinds of people. But they were keeping the knowledge hidden. They were keeping it in secret. They didn't want to share it with the majority of the masses sometimes for good reasons, because the people didn't know how to handle this level of wisdom. And they did that also for the Greek wisdom that they came into and for other forms of wisdom that came from other places in the world. So Salam is a comprehensive piece. It covers and protects all areas of the external life. Now, what do I mean by the external life? The external life belongs to those four areas of societal development that we talk about all of the time. William, can you give me those four on the societal or sociological level? Beginning with water.
Uh, Water is economics.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, all right, I'll do it
Air
later.
is, air is government.
When I finish this.
That's correct. There should be one person
Yeah.
talking right
No,
now.
it's not.
Muhammad, your phone is open.
Oh,
Your device is open.
Okay,
Okay.
continue.
Fire is education. And land is culture.
Yes. Give me air again.
Air is government.
Yes. Okay. So those are the four levels of societal or sociological development. I need you to give them to me again back to back so that everybody can be clear on what four we're talking about again.
Okay, we're talking about uh, air, and that's government.
Mhm.
Fire is education.
Correct.
Water is economics.
Beautiful.
And land is culture.
Very good. Where you cultivate the land. Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you very much. I'll be calling on you again soon. You guys don't be too quick to jump open and open up your phones today. I'm giving you deep, deep insight. I need you to listen more than try to find questions to ask me or statements to make. This is one of those where I need you to listen. They're going to be very deep levels of insight that I'm going to share with you in today's lesson. So what you need to be doing is taking notes. And if I open up later, then you can ask me questions based on the notes you've taken. But for now, I don't want any interruptions unless I call on you. All right? Thank you all. Now, that amniotic fluid in the womb of the developing fetus is what allows for the feeding of the gestation or the gestating life within the developing intellect now. So I'm moving the focus from the physical fetus to the mind or the intellect that says, feed us. I hope you understood that. I'm not talking about the baby in the womb anymore. I'm talking about the baby intellect that is developing within the womb of society. When your mommy takes you outside and you begin to see things you never saw before, and you go to the library and to school and to the store and to the bank with your mommy, and you start to take in all of these different things into your five basic senses that you were not aware of. You didn't even know they existed. You didn't even know people who looked like that were around you on your block in your neck of the woods. You never saw them before. You've only seen your mother, your father, hopefully, and your family members, your other family members, your siblings, and maybe your neighbors next door or down the block or down the hallway if you're in the projects like where I grew up, right? So these are new things, new experiences coming into your five basic senses. And it is allowing you to experience things. It's allowing you to feed. See, that's how infants in the womb are fed. They're fed through their mother's umbilical cord. They're not fed by fork and spoon and knife, just like the baby is not fed by fork and spoon and knife when they're first born. These are analogies that I want you to recognize so that you'll know how natural life has been designed by Allah to grow, develop, and make progress. All right. So let's look at this word comprehensive out of the Etymology Online Dictionary. It says containing much in comparatively small limits. So comprehensive doesn't mean you got it all. No, and if you're a comprehensive person as a Muslim, it doesn't mean you have it all or that you know it all. But it does mean that what you are feeding from, that called the Quran, is capable of feeding you in measures that represent or are representative of a total package of information that we call the fitrah. You don't have all of the fitrah. You don't know everything in nature, but you have a composite picture or idea of what nature represents, because one thing in many cases in the fitrah represents all things. I don't know everything in the creation, but I do know that every living form grows from the ground up and not from the sky down. See, one principle that covers every living thing. Nothing grows from the sky down, especially your religion. Some people are stuck up in the sky with their religion. The Sufis, the Catholics, the people who are just stuck up in the sky. They're still looking at the sky, waiting for somebody to fall out of it, save them. I'm teaching you pure D-Fitra logic right now. Pay attention. Put all of your superstitions and your mythologies aside today. Go back to them after we're finished, but for right now, pay clear attention. Comprehensive as an adjective means containing much in comparatively small limits. To take together, to unite, to include, to comprehend, perceive, to seize or take in the mind. It's beautiful. With, that's what com means in comprehensive. Com means with or together. And he says that here it probably means completely. Prehendere means to catch or to catch hold of, to seize. And we know that these things are done with the hands, to take hold, to seize. And the pre in comprehensive is from hendere, which means before, to do something before you do another thing. So in order to comprehend, there are certain things that are prerequisites. You have to be able to seize or to take a thing before you can comprehend. You have to be able to grab it with your 5 fingers, which represent your 5 basic senses. That's how you comprehend. To perceive is to allow information to sift through the choice-making abilities in your intellect. Your intellect is designed by Allah to make choices. And your choices are going to be based on what you believe to be the best thing for you out of those choices. I'll take this one. I'm going to reject that one. Yeah, that's what the intellect has been designed to do by Allah, to make choices. The word is actually internal election. That's what intellect means as a verb. It is internal election or choice making. So that is what is responsible for the building up of your perception. That is how you perceive. The sieve part of perceive is from the word sift, S-I-F-T. And sift is when you have things running through what they call a strainer. When you're looking for certain kinds of materials, you're in the middle of the desert or whatever, and you're looking for gold, whatever it is. The things that are being sifted and that can make it through those small holes in the mesh, those are not the valuable things that you're looking for. But if something is big enough, like a gold nugget, to get to just stay there on top of the mesh, and it doesn't go through the sift, that's what you want to hold on to. So there are some things that we're learning on a daily basis that just fall through the mesh, that are not important. They're not big enough to hold our attention. But then there are things that are left in the mesh net that are very well worth our attention. Valuable. It's talking about knowledge. I think you've picked that up already. Sifting is what separates the purer, finer materials from the gross and often inferior materials. It is the intellect, as I said, which represents the internal election that makes us truly human. We're talking about the difference between Muslim and Mu'min today, so pay attention. Everything I'm going to tell you today has to do with one or the other or both of those words that are found in Al-Quran. Muslim, Mu'min. We use them interchangeably, but they are not the same. Listen carefully. So now we know that the word salam represents something comprehensive. So when we say to each other, salamun alaykum, we're actually saying, may the comprehensive peace not just be upon you, but be upon you as an obligation. Something you should feel obligated to return is what that saying is saying. Salam alaykum. This is so beautiful when you understand it. So the other words in the Quran that share these three letters, the Sin, the Lam, and the Mim that we find in Salam. The other word that we're very familiar with is Islam, Al-Islam, the S, the L, and the M. And wherever you see that S, L, and M, it means comprehensive. In this case, Al-Islam is spoken of in the Quran as the comprehensive deen that they mistranslate as religion. Don't just say this is my religion. Say my religion is a comprehensive. What do we mean? That means it covers everything. Allah tells you that in the Quran, big and small. The Quran is covering it. Not in minute detail. That's not what comprehensive means. Comprehensive means you're able to take a sample of everything, and when you put everything together, you got a little bit of everything. You know, you've been to the buffet before. You take some of this, you take some of that. You don't eat the whole setup, but you take enough to say, yeah, I had a pretty good sampling. In fact, I think they call it samplings in some cases in some restaurants. Say, try a little bit of this and a little bit of that and tell me what you think. And then if there's something that's there that you want more of because it's more tasty, then you go for it. See? That's the value of having something comprehensive brought before you. So Al-Islam is comprehensive deen. So if Al-Islam is comprehensive deen because it contains the Sin, the Lam, and the Mim, then what in the world is a Muslim that also contains the Sin, the Lam, and the Mim? This MU, as you know by now, is a prefix. It's not a part of the original root word. We're just looking at the S, the L, and the M, which again means comprehensive. So if a Muslim has these three same consonants, and those three consonants represent something comprehensive, then a Muslim must be a comprehensive human. So in the last days of Imam W.D. Muhammad, he said, whenever you see the word Muslim in the Quran, he said, just translate it as human. He told us that. That's on video. You can find that on YouTube. He said, just translate it as true human, true human. And when he dropped that law, boy, oh boy, I think some folks in the sky started to panic a little bit. They said, you mean we have to make room at the inn? You mean we got to make room at the Jumu'ah? We got to make room at the Hajj for these other strange people that don't say what we say and don't pray like we pray and don't... Yeah. You would eventually have to do that, or you'll be set aside by Allah. You'll be set aside. Yeah, when the thing ceases to function based on how Allah created it to function, then that thing becomes dysfunctional. And Allah did not reveal his Quran so that the people who say they're following it would become dysfunctional as Muslims. Allah will take a whole new set of humans and condition them for his deen. And he says, when he does that, he said, and he will love them and they will love him. That's in the Quran. He said he can wipe everybody else out. And he chooses a whole new group of people. And he say, I will love them and they will love me. Beautiful. Now, so Al-Islam, comprehensive deen. Muslim, comprehensive human. Keep that in your mind. And have these conversations with people who say that they're Muslim. Say, let me tell you something new I learned. Don't tell them who you got it from. It's not necessary. Just tell them what you got. And listen, I'm sharing this information with scholars, not with knuckleheads who don't even do research before they start responding and disagreeing and all the rest of it. They don't even do research. They don't, half of them don't speak the Arabic necessary to understand what I'm talking about. That's why I love you guys so much. You're patient. You're willing to go do the research. You're willing to ask the right questions before saying that doesn't sound like what my imam taught me or what my sheikh taught me or what my mufti taught me. But there are scholars in the sciences, some of them who are listening to what we're saying. I should say specifically listening to what I'm saying. I have conversations with them. You've seen them on YouTube. These are not no Rudy Poos. These are bona fide scholars who are giving consideration to what Instructor Benjamin Bilal has been telling you now for over 10 some odd years, longer than that actually. And they're loving it. It's new, it's refreshing, it's revitalizing for them. A comprehensive human is the result of comprehensive knowledge. Doesn't that make sense? Isn't that following the logic to its logical conclusion? If you're feeding from food that is vitalizing and revitalizing every cell in your body, then that's what makes your body comprehensively healthy. So a comprehensive human, I repeat, is the result of comprehensive knowledge. When knowledge is piecemeal, then our understanding of the subject matter will remain scattered and broken into pieces. This is how racism, sexism, classism, etc., is established as artificial signatures in and on Allah's creation, full stop. Now, I just gave you a breakdown of all of those fake, phony, fictitious isms that are in the world. And all they were trying to do was replace Allah's ism. Where's Allah's ism? Bismillah. Be ism Allah. That's where Allah's ism is. They replaced it with their worldly, scholarly isms. And they have ruined the world. Race-ism. Class-ism. Chauvinism. Chauvinism. That's their ism. Give them back their isms. And you take what Allah has designed for you. When building a structure, we must remain attentive to the integrity of the building's foundation. The word deen also means foundation. And remember, a foundation is not just that which is on the surface of the ground. The foundation, Wally and others who do construction, you know this very well. The foundation also includes those things that you have to tend to that are beneath the surface of the ground. That's why when people build homes and buildings, you see them go down first, just like the plant. You see, when you follow the fitrah, you are successful. When you follow the world, you are not successful. So the construction worker has to dig down first, just like the plant that's planted in the ground based on the seed. He has to dig the earth, he has to part the earth, the soil, and to put the seed down into the, and then when the life form begins to burst out of the seed, that life form itself goes down before it comes back up. It subroots itself. They call it a tap root. Then it gets strong. It wraps around the rocks and whatever else it has to wrap around before it begins its arduous journey up and above the soil. The foundation for every plant is in its seed. And the word deen, with the consonants dal and nun, D and N, means foundational, dal, seed, nun. You're looking in the Nunetics book, you're going to see it as that which goes beneath the surface of a thing, like a firmly rooted tooth. Yeah, a firmly rooted tooth is dal. And nun, as you know, one of its meanings is seed. So it's a firmly rooted seed. Seed, that's what dal is. What is it? What else is a seed? An idea, an ideation that is designed to grow and give back, feed other life forms. That's what your deen is supposed to be doing. Now, what is a mu'min? Time for your thinking caps if you don't already have them on. The word mu'min is from the verb amana, A-M-A-N-A. We have a couple of aminas in our class today. Beautiful, blessed people. Amana means he trusted a thing. Sometimes they say he had faith in a thing. Amana begins with belief. And I'm saying this now to differentiate belief from faith. The world uses those two words interchangeably, but they're not the same. Let's look at the difference. Amana begins with belief and then grows to become faith once information and experience are gathered. So every human life form comes into the world believing as a believer. But why are you still calling yourself just a believer and you're 20-something years old, 40-something years old, 80-something years old? Well, you're not just a believer now. Not if you've been reading this book, the Quran, for a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, some of you. You're not just a believer. See, when a baby comes here, you can tell the baby practically anything and it's going to believe you. We told our children that there was a Santa Claus that will be coming to see us on December 24th that night and land on the roof and come down the chimney. And many of us lived in the projects. I'm still trying to figure out how that's supposed to happen. And deliver gifts and all. And because of the love and the attachment that our children have to us, especially at those young ages, they just believed it. Daddy wouldn't lie to me. Mommy wouldn't tell me no lies like that. They believed it until they grew out of it or until the father said, man, you know, you're 17 now. Let me tell you the truth. You understand, right? So belief comes first. So when you enter into a so-called religion and they ask you to believe in the religion, you should be careful of that just for your own sake. Not that they're trying to do anything bad or nefarious or anything. No, not that. This is just the way the world has been taught. We have to be the ones to turn it around because we want our logic to be aligned with el-fitra, not with the teacher or the scholar or the instructor or anybody like that. We want our logic to be aligned with Allah's fitra, which he said should not be altered. They alter their knowledge all of the time. But the fitra's knowledge, Allah says that do not make alterations in the fitra. It is the creation of Allah. Do not make alterations in the creation of Allah. It is his fitra. Then Allah says, but most people have no knowledge. They have no idea what they're doing. No idea what they're saying. They're arguing with people and don't know what they're talking about because their reference point is that which is other than Mother Nature, aka al-fitra. So the combination of the information that you're receiving and the experience that you're gathering by putting that information to work, that combination right there gives us what is called ilm. knowledge. Ilm, I repeat, in a different way, is a combination of information and experience. When you put that information to practice, what you get from putting those two together is called ilm, knowledge. Information plus experience equals knowledge. Information is feminine. You know that because it begins with in. All words that begin with in are feminine words, not females. Feminine words, meaning things can enter them and change the construction of their particular development. Words that begin with ex, like experience, it goes out like the masculine organ goes out in search of. And when they come together, the information meets the experience, and a child is born. Inshallah, a child is born. That child in this case is knowledge. Just think about the 9 letters of the word knowledge representing the 9 basic months of gestation for the newborn. That's not what it means, but that's easier for you to remember if I tell it to you like that. People who have both information and experience can be trusted. You can't trust somebody who only has information. Your computer has information. That doesn't mean that much. We trust people who have both information and experience, trial and error. If you hire them to do a job, you can pretty much close your eyes on them. You say, oh, how many years have you been building constructions? Say, oh, really? You've been doing this for 37 years? No, man, show me what you got. They take me out to some land or something where they got a whole project, a whole community going up, a community of buildings going up. And they say, yeah, we got 5 of these all around the city. You want to see the other 4? No, no, that's enough. I don't need to see any. You did these? That's khalas. I don't need to see any more. I trust you. That's faith. That's not belief. They don't just believe. The people who are out there with no constructions might tell you that they believe they can build you some buildings. Have you ever done it? No, but I believe. I've seen a schematic. I believe I can. Man, get away from me. You don't want anybody who just believes. You want somebody who knows. You see the difference of Muslim? And there are a lot of Muslims who just believe. That's as far as they get. They get to the Santa Claus part of it. And they get to the other so-called beliefs that they believe are in the deen of Islam, which are not. And they approach you as though it's straight up Quran, and it's not. Well, when this happens and that happens, and when the Dajjal returns and Jesus coming back out the sky, and they give you a whole lot of stuff that's not in the Quran. And they believe it. I ain't mad at them. That's how they have configured what they're reading. But I'd like to say as a first principle, make sure that what you're trying to feed somebody else is actually in the Quran, and show me where. Show me the surah, show me the ayat, or show me your logic for thinking that this particular verse or this particular sentence means what you're saying it means. Don't bring me a subsidiary. Bring me from the Quran, which Allah says is complete and detailed. You know what the English word detail means? Let's have a little fun. It means exactly what it says. If you know what a tail is, a tail comes after the animal. There are no animals that have tails on their face or on top of their heads or growing out the sides of their arms. A tail on an animal, a creature, is always following the creature. The horse's tail is behind him. The cow's tail, same thing, behind him. You understand? So To detail means to remove the tail. And when you remove the tail, you're removing what comes behind him. The details of Al-Quran are removing what people placed as Islam that came behind the Quran. So when Allah says that this is fully detailed, he's saying that there's nothing wagging. We took the tail away. There's no need to follow up the Quran with anything. You hadithers. And I'm going to stop saying that because Allah calls Al-Quran the best of hadiths. Ahsanul hadith. So it's incorrect even for us to say that there's the Quran and then there's the hadiths. No, there's the Quran and then there are the words of men. For some, they are very valuable. Well, we'll go on with the words of men, but don't call it Allah's word. That's a crime. Let's continue. So if you hire people who have both information and experience, if you hire them to do a job, you can pretty much close your eyes on them. And that's the other meaning for the word mu'min. From amana. That's another meaning for amana, where you get the word aman. And iman, which we'll be speaking on in just a moment. In the world of the ancient Egyptians, who were called Kemetic people, Cometians, back in their day. The people of Kemet is who we're talking about. The Greeks called them Egyptians. They had a so-called god called Amun. We'll talk about that in the next paragraph. Amun. And Amun used to handle pretty much everything. He's in charge of almost everything. He's so busy doing what he does that the average person did it. That's it. And we got Amun. Amun, is he Amun up again? He's up. Okay, I'm good. I'm going about my business. I don't have to do practically anything now. We got Amun on the job. And Amun means closed eye. They followed it up or combined Amun with another one of their gods, small g, called Ra. Ra. And Ra was the sun god. And Ra means open eye, like the one on the back of your $1 bill, if you're in America. So Amun Ra means closed eye, open eye. Closed eye, open eye. I'm going to show you that in my camera. Closed eye, open eye. It's called a wink. And people like to wink at other people to tell them, I'm just messing with them. I'm trying to put something over on them. Don't reveal my secrets. Even in today's Masonry and all of that secret society stuff that they're spouting now, you see people all over the place doing this, right? Covering one eye. Closed eye, open eye. It's in their sciences. But who's revealing their sciences in this day and time? Believe it or not, it's the Quran, revealing all of their secrets. Allah gives it in the story of the big jinni called Ifrit, Ifrit. It's in the story of Suleiman or Solomon. And they're trying to discuss who's going to bring back the throne for the queen, Saba or Sheba. And they get around to the big jinn, the Ifrit, and he says, I will bring it to you in the blink of an eye. I'll bring you her throne in the blink of an eye, or even sooner, quicker than that. That's some mighty magic he had there. But what we have to understand is that it represents the putting of the people's perception into darkness and then opening up their perception. And by the time their perception becomes open again, it's not what they thought it was in front of them. And that's what jinns do. Many of them have the power to deceive the masses for worldly gain, for prestige and power and control. Many of the people that you see in the world right now, 2025, and I hope you'll take this the right way, many of them are actually jinn masquerading as humans. I'm going to not speak on that right now. If I see a reason to say something more about it before we finish, then I will. But I think most of you already know what I'm talking about. Now, the ancient Egyptian knew that this level of the intellect could be trusted. So they named one of their chief deities Amun, A-M-U-N. The etymological meaning of Amun / Aman. And in church, they say, Amen. After the preacher stopped preaching, Amen. And Muslims don't cackle because they got you saying the same thing after you read Al-Fatiha, and after you pretty much do any dua, you say, Ameen, 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 Ameen. Who taught you to say that? Is that in the Quran? See, what I bring is a wake-up call. I try to be gentle, but nevertheless, what I'm saying needs to be said because they have infiltrated our deen and sprinkled some fairy dust over the information, so that by the time you get to the experience that is supposed to couple the information, the experiences are nothing but rituals. No routine, no regularity in terms of what things mean and how things are designed to advance and enhance the human intellect. They take that out and they leave in only those things that they teach you to do, like the soldiers in wherever they are. Where's it, Rome? No, wherever they are, where they're standing in front of the building with the rifles, and and they look like robots. They got the big hats. You know where I'm, England. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. You understand? They're just standing there. You wouldn't even think they were human if you didn't already know they were human, because they're following rituals. So, Amun and Amen means not mind. It's utilizing what I've referred to over and over again as the A of negation, meaning when an A is put at the beginning of many words in English and in Arabic and in many other languages, it cancels out the meaning of the word that comes after. In this case, that would be mun or men or man even. So Amun means not mind, because man means mind. Man represents that which the mind is collecting, assimilating, and remembering, while Aman or Amana came to represent that which we could trust instinctively without having to continue paying a whole lot of attention to it. For that reason, it came to signify faith. As I gave in the example earlier, I've seen enough. No, I don't need you to show me another whole development that you've constructed. If you showed me one building, I would have been straight. Gone, you got the job. That's I'm operating now on faith. I can close my eyes on you. Man means open eye, mind, perception, 5 senses at work. Amun means I don't have to do any of that. It means no mind. I'm paying you no mind. I don't need to pay you any. I don't need to pay attention to what you're talking about. You got it, partner. Do it. I trust you. I have faith in you. I have confidence in you. Iman means all of those things. When the human mind reaches that level of trust and confidence, it has matured to a degree beyond just being innately peaceful. See, so a mu'min, a person of iman and amana, it's not just being peaceful. That human mind is now ready to take its role as a manager in and over creation. In another part of the Quran, it's called the Khalifa, a manager, a custodian, they like to say, a cleanup guy. He's here to clean this thing up. And believe it or not, what's happening today in the world, you see it not only in politics, you see it in the culture and entertainment, in the banking systems. Oh my goodness. Boy, if you don't know what a Khalifa is, you're not really looking at today's world, 2025. Many of the people who are in it, they don't know what they're participating in. They don't know that this is a day in the deen. And they don't know that a Khalifa has been reestablished in this world. Most of the people in the world don't know that. They only know it spiritually, that something is happening that they cannot fight. They don't want to mess with this. It's too powerful. See, when you wake up in the morning in Saudi Arabia and torrential rains and winds are blowing your cars and your trucks down the street, as happened in 2022 in Saudi. I don't know if any of you gave any khutbahs to this effect at your Jummahs, but you need to ask yourself the question, what's going on? The signs of Allah are going on. And they go on all of the time, but sometimes Allah accentuates those signs. Continuing. So the human mind has been developing in the world, and it is at the point now, generally speaking, that the mind's role, I didn't say the man's role like a person or individual. I'm not talking about an individual coming up out of Iran somewhere. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the role that the mind plays when Allah shapes a particular mind for a particular reason and destination. There's your Khalifa. Keep following the other stuff if you want. I'm telling you what to look for. The manager. Look for the manager. Manager. Manage. It's a mind that Allah has created to manage creation itself, particularly this earth. In the construction of the Khalifa in the Quran, Allah says that when He has balanced him and then breathed into him of Allah's ruh, His spirit, His breath, then He told the angels, the other forces, make sajda, bow down, put your pineal gland on the ground so that it can receive its needed blood and oxygen. All of your pineal glands need to be activated now. So it just makes sajda. And it is this ruh, this breath, that follows the establishment of the Khalifa as a balanced creation. So who related to the word uswa, huh? Another word many of you have heard. So who, when I have evened him out, when I have balanced him, when I have given him equilibrium, when I have given him symmetry, he's not going to be a leftist. He's not going to be a right winger. He's going to be balanced. So anybody else who's following these extremes, what do I look like as a Muslim following these extremes? You should be seeking the middle road, the balance. And that's where you will find the inspired ones who have received Allah's ruh and are going on to liberate the entire planet. Peace by P-E-A-C-E. Yeah, P-I-E-C-E by P-E-A-C-E. So look for the peacemakers in the world. Repeating the words of Imam W.D. Muhammad not long before he passed. He said, I know what they say about the New World Order. He said, what I'm telling you is that Allah is going to bring about his New World Order using their hand. He said the same thing in 1975 about a particular gentleman who wanted to leave his leadership and go on and do his own thing and take people back to where we were in 1960 and 1950 and 1940 and the teachings of Elijah Muhammad. He wanted to take us all the way back there after making this advancement up to the portal that would lead us into better understanding of the Quran. And this one gentleman said, I ain't doing it. And Wallace D. Muhammad, when he was still being called Minister Wallace or Chief Minister Wallace D. Muhammad, he said, let him go. He said, sometimes the hammer gets damaged, but the work gets done. All right, well, let's continue. I could hear many of you going, wow, I never heard that. That's powerful, instructor. Yeah, it is. Now, it is the ruh or the breath of Allah that converts the Muslim into a mu'min. The mu'min is actually a growth potential that has been planted into the human psyche by Allah. It's a potential that needs to find its correct environment before it can take root, blossom, and flourish. A mu'min is one who has combined his or her faith, iman, with the activating powers of his or her conscious actions. Again, it is when you combine faith, iman, trust, confidence with conscious and determined actions. And we do that as a safety measure against the inadvertent fall of one's human excellence. If you don't want to see your human excellence diminished, then you have to know the science for how to combine the powerful forces of Iman and Amal, faith and good works, as they translate it. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Those who express faith, amanu, and do deeds of reconciliation. Amilu salihat doesn't just mean good deeds. It means deeds that serve to reconcile people who should have been and used to be united. Just like families used to be united, right? The father used to be in most of the households. Somebody concocted a scheme to remove the father, to remove the husband from the house. Remember the movie Claudine? You need to go look at that movie. I think it's on Netflix or somewhere. You can find it. Where the government devised a very wicked plan of removing the black father from the household so that the government would become our daddy. Wicked plan that we're still suffering from in 2025, where now many of the women themselves have to take on the manly role in raising their children and providing for their children. So when we keep these two aspects together, the aman with the amal, boy, oh boy, oh boy, then it's going to be very difficult for us to experience the safilin, the asfala safilin, the fall from grace the fall from one's human excellence, from that perch of human excellence. But if you divorce yourself from either of these two, from Iman, and your Iman begins to weaken, or if you allow this society to divorce you from the good works of reconciliation that bring people together, that bring conversations that should be had to the table of conversations, you got the people now conditioning the public to just disagree and violently disagree with something political or some economic something. And violently that they will shoot you if you disagree with them. They will, man. The Democrats and the Republicans, they just at each other. And it's more the Democrats than anybody. Y'all, man, tell the truth now. Ready to draw blood. Why? Because Shaitan has been in control. Let's continue. Alladhina amanu are those specific ones who experience safety, security, soundness, and peace of mind as individuals. Follow this carefully. Advanced lesson being taught this afternoon. When the Quran speaks about alladhina, those who are amanu, established in faith, specific ones, it's not general, it's specific. If Allah said man, then he'd be speaking generically, non-specific, whoever, whatever. If he said man, but he said alladhina, that means I can see you. Don't you know I can see you? Don't you know I can describe you based on 5 sense observation? That's what alladhina means. I can draw you. I can go to the police station. Hey, he look like this. He got eyes this wide. He got nose thin. He got lips. I can specify when Allah says alladhina amanu. So these are the specific ones who experience safety, security, soundness, and peace of mind as individuals. Now, all of these things can also factor into what salam means. They overlap. What salam means, Muslim, overlaps with what aman means as a measure of safety and security and wholeness. That's what soundness means. And peace. But again, this is another level of peace. This is not peace in the belly of your mommy where everything's being taken care of for you and you can just rest on your, laurels. Well, you have no laurels. You weren't even born yet, but you're still resting. Until. You hear what Allah says in the Quran? Peace. Until the breaking of dawn. That's an al-Qadr. Look it up. Salamun hiya hatta matla'il fajr. Listen to how it sounds. It tells you that there's a breakup of peace. Salamun hiya. Peace it is. Hatta. You see that? Hatta. Until matla'il fajr. Matla'il means the rising up of or the manifestation of something. From the word tala, which Dr. Omar and I were discussing last week. If you saw that video, if not, it's a very good one to watch, but have your pens and papers with you. Omar Ramahi, brilliant scholar. Yeah, Matla'il Fajr. So, alladhina amanu are specific as characters are in a stage play or in a movie. Those characters have names. They have personalities, starring, co-starring, that kind of thing. That's alladhina amanu, those specific ones who are doing something. and they can be observed with our five basic senses. When the Muslim has reached a level of growth and transformation which locks that peace into becoming a permanent feature of the nafs or the soul, he or she then becomes a mu'min. Let me repeat that. When the Muslim, the peacemaker, has reached a level of growth and transformation. That's what it means to grow from Muslim to Mu'min. There has to be a transformation in you and me. It's not a sticking out of a right finger and mumbling some words, some magic words. That's not what this is. That's a ritual. It's not a routine. How are you going to testify to something that you haven't seen yet? Who gave us that one? I testify that there is no God but Allah, and I testify that Muhammad is his prophet or is his messenger. When did you see all of this? You go to court and you say you're testifying to something. They don't want to hear nothing you heard. They want to hear about what you saw. Explain to me that testimony. You just got here. This is your first time in the masjid. You got overly excited. You were amped up about what you heard. Yeah, I want to be a Muslim. What I do to be a Muslim? Oh, you just got to say these words. See, you got to be very careful about what has sneaked into your deen in the last 1,000 or so years. Let's continue. When the Muslim has reached a level of growth and transformation which locks that peace that we're talking about into becoming a permanent feature of the nafs. See, as a Muslim, you are not necessarily locking that growth and development into your soul. It's surface. It's casual. It's trendy to be a Muslim. Oh, I committed a horrific crime and I got to go to jail for 4 years, 5 years. Oh, let me see. Oh, I'm going to become a Muslim. I know that'll give me my protection. It's surface. Oh, so many fine girls in that mosque I went to. What I got to do to be a Muslim? It's surface for many people. Not for everybody, but for too many people. It's trendy. So when that peace becomes a permanent fixture within the nafs, the soul, the breathing soul, he or she then becomes a mu'min. Both Muslim and mu'min are states of mind. Let me repeat that. Both Muslim and mu'min are states of mind. The Muslim is a state of mind that is controlling your outward behaviors. The mu'min is a state of mind that is controlling and disciplining your inward behaviors, thoughts, feelings, even your instincts are being directed by the mu'min in you. Mu'min is when that state of peace, called Muslim, has solidified as a permanent and unwavering fixture in the intellect, so much so that the individual is now able to trust him or herself. As a Muslim, you had to trust other people. Oh, how do I pray? Oh, where do I give my charity? When is the Eid? What part? How do we do this? What's the difference between the Eid prayer and the regular prayers that we've been? As a Muslim, you got to depend on other people. You got to trust other people. As a mu'min, you have learned to trust yourself. And it is within this system or this deen where all humans are able to experience what's called self-actualization, which allows us to be judged based on our return to our original state of peace and submission. Self-actualization. It's when somebody else does not have to give you a stamp of approval. That's how you know you're a mu'min now. You've been there, you've done that, and you got the t-shirt to prove it. That's how you know you're a mu'min and not just a Muslim. Muslim is good, but it don't necessarily get you into Jannah. A mu'min is one who puts himself under the microscope. I didn't say he's under the microscope of somebody else's science lab. The mu'min puts him and herself under the microscope and is then able to meticulously pinpoint and describe his and her own development in a way which no book can teach him. You say, well, the Quran, that's a book. No, no. The Quran you're supposed to be reading is not a physical book. That's just a reference book for what you're supposed to be observing and studying in Allah's fitrah. So I was talking about the ocean in the Quran. You're not supposed to just look in the book and say, oh, Allah spoke about the ocean. No, you're supposed to go find an ocean and study it. Go online, oceans, seas. What's the difference between oceans and this thing about the salty water and the sweet water being separated? Let's see if that's true. Let's say salt water, and you get from the comfort of your own home. Now, look at what Allah has done for humanity. You don't even have to go out and study all that. You don't have to go miles and spend a bunch of money to do nothing now. You got all of it from the comfort of your computer. How about that? Isn't that wonderful?
Yes, it is.
It is. And goodness is still on the rise. It's a great day for us. I'm telling you.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, this is amazing. All right. So it's not the physical book that's teaching you that. You have reference books that only point you in the direction of something in Allah's fitrah that you're supposed to be studying. For all intents and purposes, 99.999% of the people who call themselves Muslims in the world right now, they're not studying the Quran. Because the Quran, for all intents and purposes, is not a physical book. It's a frequency. It's a sound wave, a set of sound waves. It's called El-Furqan, the frequencies. Look at the consonants in both words. Furqan, F-R-Q, frequent, frequency, F-R-Q. You don't think they're related, do you? It's amazing. Man, oh man, this is so wonderful. Tasty too. Okay. I'm going to repeat that important statement here. A mu'min is one who puts himself or herself under the microscope and is then able to meticulously pinpoint and describe their own development in a way which no book can teach them. You know what that means? You have to learn how to go inside of yourself to become a mu'min, as the Quran is describing mu'min. That level of discipline can't come from somebody hollering rules and regulations and orders behind your back, over your head, or to your side. No, because that can't be sustained. It'll be sustained for as long as you're in front of that authority figure. As soon as you leave that authority figure, oh, shit. Oh, that sergeant ain't around. Black captain ain't around. Oh. So where was all the discipline? You didn't have it. You were faking it. A Mormon can't fake that level of faith and experience. And if nobody is there looking, she's still on it. He's still doing it. He's sleeping it. He's eating it. He's wearing his iman. He sends his iman out before him, even before he goes somewhere. He sends out his plea for safety. that Allah will keep everything safe and keep the people he's leaving behind safe, and because he's got work to do. So you put yourself under that microscope, Muslim. And Instructor Benjamin Bilal, believe it or not, has given you the best opportunity to put yourself under the microscope, because he's practically the only one. I have to say practically because I don't know for sure. He's practically the only one who's teaching you what's inside of your head. He's practically the only one who introduces to you the concept of the triune brain. He's practically the only one to introduce to you the study of the pineal gland. Other people are talking about, not in the way that I'm talking about it, to where you don't go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs trying to understand what it is and tap into it. Name the person that you go to every Friday or every Sunday who's teaching you on that level. I'm not doing that to give myself pats on the back. I'm doing that to let you know what the difference is between the apples and the oranges, and what the differences are between the Muslim and the Mu'min. The Muslim is placating your outer life, the society, how you are in the society, how you are when you go to the masjid, you step in with your right foot. Man, if you listen to some of what they tell you is Islam, it makes you wonder how an adult human could ever just follow that willy-nilly. People getting bent out of shape because they almost stepped into the masjid with their left foot, or stepped into the bathroom with their right foot. I've seen brothers leave the bed, come back out, and step back in with their left foot. If it's the latrine, maybe the restroom, where there's jinn waiting for you around the toilet, or around the sink, or behind the shower curtain. They have caused us to be cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And I'm doing my level best to bring you out of that madness. Because if you don't come out of it soon, I'll leave that. I'll say ... I'll leave that there. Now, it is not academic learning that produces the Muslim. It is experiential, meaning trial and error learning, that produces the Mu'min. Academic learning produces the Muslim. That's the first stage. After you get all of your regularities and all of those things that you want to learn to do on a regular basis, how to do this, how to perform that, where to go, what to say. After you get all of that initial level out of the way, then it's time to internalize your experiences. That's what produces the Mu'min. This is knowledge which goes beyond the surface and penetrates deeply into the core, called the qalb, of the individual's heart. And it has nothing at all to do with the physical heart. It has to do with your core concerns. It has to do with the construction of core ideas that are necessary to build the typical human that Allah wants on this earth. In Surah 49, called Al-Hujurat, the dwellings, ayat 14, we're going to read in English just to save time. They translated this incorrectly as the desert Arabs say, we believe, say, you have no faith, but you should only say, we have submitted our wills to Allah. For not yet has faith entered your hearts. But if you obey Allah and His Messenger, He will not belittle aught of your deeds, for Allah is all forgiving, most merciful. Brief commentary. When Allah says the desert Arabs, He's not talking about the Arabs of the desert. In fact, He's not talking about the people that you see as Arabs at all, from Saudi and, those other places that have that kind of weather and that kind of sand and that kind of whatever you call typical desert. That's not what Allah's talking about. You might say, Instructor, you're very bold with saying what Allah is saying and what He's not saying. All I'm saying to you is that you're misreading it. We were taught to read this book, for lack of a better term. We call it the Mus'haf. We were taught to read it incorrectly. How do I know? because Allah has placed clear signs in how he revealed this book. And when it contrasts with some other something that Allah puts in the same book, it forces your mind to examine it more closely. It's the translator that is saying the desert Arabs, when there's no word here for desert. It just says Arabu. Arab is how you should pronounce that. Arab. Let me show it to you. El Arab, for those of you who can read the Arabiya. El Arab. There's another place in the Quran where Allah says Arab. So you Muhammad Abdullahs and Mikhail Abdul Samad, who know how to go through Amina, right? You know how to read this Arabic, this Arabiya. You go find the contrast that I'm talking about. This says El Arab. The other one says El Arab. But again, because nobody taught us the difference, we go with what the popular translations say, not knowing that the popular translations had, trying to find a nice word now, nicer than scheme. A plan? I don't know what to call it, but they had something that tells me that they intentionally mistranslated these ayat. How do I know? Because after 40, 50, 60 years, they haven't put the correct translation. That tells me somebody did something on purpose. They wanted you to believe that it was talking about the so-called desert Arabs so that they would have a stain on them forever. The desert Arabs are the worst in hypocrisy in another ayat. See, I put myself in that position and I said, what if Allah has said the Negro is the worst in hypocrisy and bad behavior? And he put that in the Quran, and that's supposed to be forever. I can't even change that behavior. What kind of justice is that? So you got to take them out and put you in before you'll understand the lack of justice in that. The worst in hypocrisy. Now let's correct this. And just to give you the shortcut version, when Allah speaks about El-Arab, he's speaking about a mentality, a mental mindset that anybody on this planet can come into, not just a particular genealogy over in the Middle East somewhere. Now, doesn't that make it fair? That makes it fair.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes it fair and square. Now, you don't have to go out of there, out to this Saudi or Hajj, wherever you're going to, and you come back home and you talk about them behind their backs and all of that. And you get jealous of them because they got $1 trillion budget and all of that. You get jealous and, well, why Allah got to give them that kind of wealth? When he going to switch and give it to black people? We're going to get our reparations. When he going to... See, you're not thinking correctly. These are mindsets. You want to know how to change your circumstances? Change your mind. And don't think that wealth is your answer. It's a part of your answer, but it is not the answer to what's going on over here in America when it comes to us. You can produce your own economy if you wanted to, if you paid attention to what's going on. So this is saying, according to them, that the desert Arabs are saying, we believe, amanna, we believe, we have iman, we have faith. And it's telling the prophet to tell them, say, you have no faith, but you should only say, we have submitted our wills, meaning we are Muslims. We are not Mu'min. That's what the Quran is telling them to say, the people of this mindset. Don't say you're Mu'min. Say you can only say you're Muslim. So saying that you're Muslim is no real big deal. It's telling people what you have submitted to outwardly. So if we catch you doing something that's not what we subscribe for outwardly behavior, then we can call you on that. But you can't go around here saying that you're on top of the hill in terms of what Allah has created to rule this planet. As a mu'min, one who is thoroughly established to carry out the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this earth, beginning with the self, and not in any purely ritualistic way, in a human way. Because once again, the word mu'min and Muslim are referring to your human self and its development. So it says that don't say that you are mu'min or believers, so to speak, because you don't have faith yet. See, faith is a graduation up from just doing routines. Faith has not yet entered your heart, meaning the core of your being. It's not the central focus for you when you go about doing business with the people, when you go about speaking to people, talking to people about the deen. You're talking about people about the deen from your tongue, but you're looking at the fine sister over there sitting in the corner of the masjid by herself, and you, oh, okay, can't wait to get finished with this khutbah. That's human. That's all right. We do that, but don't say that you at the top of the line when it comes. Read the surah called the Mu'min, pardon me. Go read that surah and look at the list of things, beginning with the first that Allah says a Mu'min is supposed to be doing. And you see that they are all consistent. There's no wavering in any of those articles, those items that Allah is saying. Matter of fact, while I'm doing this, somebody look that surah up and let me know when you get it. I forget the number. Look it up. Muslim is a behavioral, outwardly manifested mode or conduct, whereas mu'min is an inward and deeply ingrained experience.
Salaam alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Imam, how are you, sir? Good to
I'm
see
good. This Quran 23:1, Mu'min.
you. Yeah, great.
Laqad. No. It tells you the three things. Qad aflahal mu'minun, and if you said it backwards, it said mu'minun aflahal qad. I know, I'm sorry.
I'm not even going to ask. That's our brother. So, qad aflahal mu'minun, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now read the rest of it in English, please.
The rest of it, those who humble themselves in prayer, those who avoid idle talk, those who pay alms tax, those who quietly guard their chastity, except with their wives or those bondwomen in their possession, for then they are free from blame. But whoever seeks beyond that are the transgressors. The believers are also those who are true to trust and covenants, and those who are promptly observant of their prayers. Those are the ones who will be rewarded. So it goes beyond but the first 10.
That's fine. Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay. So,
Shukran.
First thing is that most of that is mistranslation.
Mm.
Most of that is not being translated correctly. Maybe I'll reserve next week to give you the correct translation of that ayat, of those,
Please do.
of those verses. All right, but they'll suffice for what I need to present. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. And how do they translate that into English?
The believers are indeed successful.
Okay. Yeah, okay, stop there. Now, that's a present tense statement that the believers are indeed successful. If someone were to say that to me, I would automatically believe that it's talking about the state of the believers, quote unquote, right now. Is there anybody out there who would not believe it's talking about present tense right now? No, it's being stated as though it's happening right now. But most people don't know that this particular ayat was revealed during a time when the Muslims under Muhammad were receiving the worst treatment of those early days. This is happening just before the Prophet asked those people, or commanded those people actually, to leave Mecca and go to Africa. What's the city?
Abyssinia.
Abyssinia,
Abyssinia. Thank you. Right. It's called Ethiopia today. Right?
Ethiopian.
Yes. Right. All right. So if the believers are winning through, why leave? We all right. We need to just assume our positions and get this party started over here. So why is Allah stating it like that? Then some translations change it up and they say that the believers shall eventually, they put that in brackets, because they knew it wasn't happening as it was being revealed. These people were being buried up to their necks in the sand. These people were being starved to death. No food, no water, left out in the desert to burn. The first followers of our prophet. So what is this saying? And this is where we have to pay more attention to the wording, and why we have to get a better understanding from people who understand what the words are saying in the way that the words are saying it. This word, qad aflaha al-mu'minun, and they translate that as inna, like they would translate inna, like surely or something like that, right? Certainly or something like that. Certainly the believers are successful, or something along that line. So this God is being used to say that this thing is already happening. But that's not really what it's saying. It's really saying that this thing could happen. You see the value of nunetics and the comparing of consonantal connections? Could, qad. And whenever you tell somebody that you could do something, for you, that's right now. That's present tense. You messing with my brother again? You know I could beat you up if I wanted to. You know I could beat you. You haven't whooped him. You haven't touched him. But he knows right now you could do that. You have the potential to do that. How wonderful this Quran is. It means a lot of other things. But what it is saying is that the human being, the mu'min, that is being addressed here, not the Muslim, but the mu'min that's being addressed here, is being given a very serious lesson in how the brain operates, and in the idea that you should live in the now, not in the past. When you live in the now, you are living in even a different dimension as far as what your brain recognizes as so-called reality. When you live in the now, your mind is doing that. Your mind is living in the now. Your mind can take you backwards into the past. Your mind can take you forward into the present. But in order to make immediate progress, your mind has to concentrate on what is happening now. And that's what this card is pointing to. It's causing the frequencies of the human brain to shift gears. Come away from the pain and the torture and all of that they're putting you through, I'm going to show you something, Allah speaking, that's going to help you shift gears. See, when we talk about Allah being the one who is kind and generous, and we say merciful, we have to understand what all of those big words mean. How is that possible when he let these people starve and die and be killed and so forth and so forth? And Allah says, if you were to die or be killed, will you turn on your heels? Who are we to judge the level of pain and discomfort and agony that these people, only Allah can judge that and recompense that, give payback for that. So no, it's shifting. This is information that's for future scientists. This is really not even for where we are right now, believe it or not. This is for the future people who study language in the manner that I'm suggesting that they study it, and that many are already studying it and saying the Quran is not speaking to earthly bound brains. The Quran is speaking to cosmic brains. And I've been telling you that for maybe 10 years now. And now science is telling you that. The people who are talking about quantum physics are telling you that now. So we have to learn how, I told you this was going to be a deep dive. That's why I'm taking my time. We have to learn how to shift gears, shift paradigms, take ourselves out of yesterday and plant ourselves firmly into the now. And now has no timeline. If I keep myself in the past, I've placed myself on a timeline, which means in science, quantum physics, that I have placed myself in the third dimension, which is regular, three-dimensional, so-called reality. That's where I am now. Third dimension, the past, the present, the future. If I place myself in the now and I remain situated in the now, I have erased all traces of time itself. There is no more time. If I see everything and all things as being now, something to wrestle with, isn't it? It's now. When is was? When is the was? Where's was? It just left.
Alhamdulillah.
It just left me. When is the future? It's here. Oh, it's gone already. Everything is now. This is what the biggest and brightest brains in science, they know this now. They're teaching it to each other, but many of us need to play catch up. If you are under that level of knowledge and understanding, you wouldn't suffer half of the things that you're suffering, because most of your suffering comes from you believing that yesterday is always right behind you, trying to get, oh, I owe a bill from last week. Oh, I owe the mortgage from last month. Or you're stuck in the was. I like to call it the was, the was. You're stuck in the what used to be. She used to be my girl. You suffering. If this girl, she done went and got married and had children. You still say, she used to be my girl. You stuck. So I'm saying to you, instructors, you got to come out of the stuck. You got to come out of the was. And you got to come into the is. What is happening now? Understanding that now is always. The Bible gives it as I am that I am. Am, yeah, that's right now. When does that stop? It doesn't. Now you got time to build your plan. And what you have done effectively is shifted gears in terms of your frequencies. And now the new frequency is what is going to be calling other events, other assistants, other angels in your direction to assist you. You'll know it as it unfolds. I know it. I'm experiencing that. Food for thought. So this Mu'min state of mind, it will become our natural state while becoming an intricate part of our very spirit. Muslim is the training Mu'min is the perfection of the skill that the training was preparing us for. Muslim, look at the word on the page, is muscle. You see the same consonants? It's muscle memory, which develops based on practicing a behavior over and over again. You can do something so often as a routine that you just automatically do that thing, even though that thing is not necessarily called for. I'm used to making a certain tea for my wife every morning. She tells me this morning, well, instead of bringing me the black tea, yeah, I'd like to have some of the green tea. I heard her, but my muscle memory, it didn't catch it. So I just did what I regularly do, and I brought her the black tea. My mind, it wasn't my mind, it was my muscle memory. What my muscles are used to doing all of the time, the same time, every day, the same way. It's called habit. That's a natural part of your fitrah to do that because it saves your mind from having to think about other things when you need to prioritize the things that you need to get done. So you do things the way you've always done them for those other things while you're working on something new. So that's your natural state. The Muslim is the Mussulman. You've heard that. They call Muslims Mussulman. But I want you to see your muscle in the way that I'm presenting it to you right now. So qad aflaha, aflaha from falaha, which means he was successful. Remember, when was he successful? Right now. Aflaha is present tense. Qad aflaha. He is successful right now. Who is successful? Mu'minun. Those types, those people, those mentalities, those emotionalities, they are successful right now. What is the typical word for farmer in Arabic? Muflih. From the same verb, aflaha. Muflih. What does the farmer begin with? Seeds. What are we beginning with in Nunetics? Seeds. So why in the world are you thinking that we won't be successful? We're beginning with exactly what the fitrah gives you. All you have to do is commit to cultivating it. Called Eflahal Mu'minun. The believers will certainly be, that's how they translate it, certainly be successful. But what it means is that the mu'min, the faithful ones, the confident ones, they're already successful. Don't look at the picture in front of you with the armies being killed off and the archers on the roof or on the top of the hill or whatever shooting at us. And don't look at all of that. Allah is telling you, you're already successful. It's powerful. And it's the concentration on the now that brings you the things that you need right now. Now you might say, well, what are you saying? Just concentrate on what I need and it's going to pop up and appear. No, it's not. That's not that simple because you're dealing with dimensions. And you have to understand what dimensions are. Stick with this class and you're going to understand very, very clearly how to live within the complex matrix of multidimensional reality.
Takbir.
Alhamdulillah. Now, if you're not used to listening to me, you might think this guy has lost his mind.
Quite the contrary.
You know,
Right on time with it. Right on time.
y'all know that's why I have to laugh because I know that most of you, at least, you know exactly. I've been preparing you for this for maybe a couple of years now.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, for this precise language. And if you're not prepared, I would simply say, don't dismiss it. Study it. Ask me questions. You don't have to ask me questions during the live back and forth like we're doing now. Just email me. or call me. Say, instructor, I wasn't clear on what you meant by now. Yeah, this universe is multidimensional, and for the most part, we live in the third dimension part of it. When you reach the fourth dimension part of it, you're reaching the dimension that time controls, where time stands still. It is deep. And that's why I repeat, for those of you Nation of Islamers who've heard me speak for a few years now, I told you that my belief, I'll accept that word for now, belief, is that when Imam Wadathuddin Muhammad spoke about his father's teacher, who was called W.D. Farad, as WD-40. If you remember that, just open up your phone quickly and tell me that you heard with your own ears him call Mr. Farad WD-40.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, sir.
Yes.
Heard it with my own ears.
Yeah.
I heard it. Yes.
And more than once, several times, at major gatherings, he wanted to make sure that that was in there. I told you that it's my belief that when he said WD-40, he wasn't saying 40 like 40. He was saying 40 like 4D, fourth dimensional. He was telling those of us who had the ears to hear him, and he knows that that was not the majority of us. He was telling us that what Mr. Farad left was fourth dimensional communication. What does that mean? It means that his whole concentration was on the subject of time. Now, those of you who were there, wasn't that his major theme? The time and what must be done? Elijah Muhammad had so many lectures that had the word time in it. You might not have thought to make those connections. But time was a major factor in Elijah Muhammad's preachings, because he was dealing with bringing us out of the third dimensional reality into fourth dimensional time, so that we could be prepared for what the Imam eventually ended up calling the fifth dimension. I know this is above many of your heads. Don't worry about that. Imam Muhammad said just a few years, I think, before he passed, he said, we are entering into, no, he said, we are about to sit down at the table of the fifth dimension. And it is a round table, like the one in the Surah called Al-Ma'idah. That was a round, and that wasn't no rectangular table like the Last Supper. He said it's a round table. That means everybody on the planet can feed from this one, because it's like the Knights of the Round Table, right? King Arthur, the Knights of the Round Table. Nobody's at the head of it. Everybody gets a chance to eat whatever's on the table because it's a round table. That's the period that we have just entered into. We're on the cusp of it, especially with this election and all of the rest of these things going on, not only in America, but around the world. Justice has to come for the common human being on this planet. It's been lacking for too long. But in the interim, there are going to be a lot of people who are going to lose their place. They don't know how to listen. And they don't stop long enough to read Allah's ayat. So Allah says in his Quran that whatever is in the skies and whatever is in the earth, he said, in them are instructing signs, ayat. And then he says, and in you, this is Allah speaking to us, and in you there are ayat, there are instructing signs, but Allah says, but most people go on heedless, paying it no mind. That's going to be our demise. It's not going to have anything to do with you being so-called black people or so-called white people or so-called Mexicano people or Indians or what. It ain't going to have nothing to do with your culture. and your language and your clothing and your geography. It's not going to have anything to do with that. The world is being squeezed right now. Wal asr. Innal insana lafi khusr. Certainly the human being is he's losing his grip. He's lost. He's losing. He's a loser. The human being. All Allah said, El insana is just a loser. But it doesn't mean every individual. It means that type. Laqad. There goes that card again. But added to it now is Allah. Laqad. So it means certainly. It means this thing is happening in the now. But the law on it means that it has always happened this way. Every time we reach this juncture, this is going to happen, is what that ayat is saying. Laqad. And then Allah repeats the process. Laqad. Wal asr. Innal insana lafi khusr. There's that la again. By the token of time, they call it, but it's really by the setting of the sun, by the squeezing of the sun. That's the picture you're supposed to get. Asr, usr, usir, squeezing out the essence of something. Inna al-insana, certainly al-insan. And I told you al-insan represents two dimensions of people packed into one visual. The social man and the man of intellect. And I told you that it is because the social man is socializing and meeting new people and learning new languages and eating new foods and all of that. The social life is causing the human intellect to evolve. The thinking part. He's got to think more carefully now that he's around people he never met before. He doesn't have to think that hard when he's around just his family. Uncle Bobo and Uncle, this one and the other one and Pookie and all these. You don't have to think when he's around them. You just keep playing, slap him on the back of the head and keep going. But when you're out there in the world and you're dealing with people who you never met before, you can't just walk up to them and slap them in the back of their head. They might shoot you in the back of yours. That's the ever-growing and evolving world. So innal insana lafi khusr. It's that world of people who are not really paying attention to the instructing signs that are going to be swimming, drowning in loss. Lafi khusr. That fi means that it means in, but what they're going in is circular. Now, I don't have time to bring you all the details. Test what I'm saying with anybody that you think knows the language. Fi means that the object that thing is going into, like a cesspool or whatever you call it, when the water's circling and circling and it's dragging things down with, it's circular. So the loss that we're going to be experiencing is a loss of things that have to go through the portal of that shape. Lafi khusr. And then Allah makes an exception. Illa ladina amanu. We spoke about that earlier. Except for those who express faith, confidence, assurance, trust. In what? In the essential makeup of your human nature. Because as soon as you begin to understand your human nature, there's no way your mind is going to dismiss that and divorce that from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's clocked into your fitra. It's wonderful when you understand it. Let's continue. So just remember, Muslim is the training. Mu'min is the perfection of the skill that the training was preparing us for. Al-Islam represents a peaceful state of mind which develops as a result of an understanding of how the mind grows and develops into its excellence. It is a slow, arduous task which is watched over in the same way that a child, a toddler, needs to be monitored from childhood into adulthood. That's what Al-Islam is doing for us. It's growing humanity from babyhood into toddlerhood, into childhood, and finally into adulthood. And there are other subsequent developments that are given to us in the surah that is speaking on the development of the human in the womb of its mother, from dust to another creature, unnamed. ثُمَّ خَلَقٍ آخَرٍ, from nutfa to turabin. No, not from nutfa, pardon me, from turabin, from dust to nutfa, sperm, drop, bones covered over, flesh, blah, blah. And then the seventh stage there is thumma, thereafter. Some time has to pass. Khaliqin arhar, there's a programming of a creature that has not been given a name at that point. I believe that's where we are right now. The thumma, khaliqin arhar, another creation. And then Allah says, glory to Allah, the best of creators. Ahsanul khaliqin, the best, the most excellent of creators. So he's telling you, I'm not the only creator. On my level, yes, I am. On your level, I've given all of you a bit of my ruh. So now you, Elon, you, Einstein, you, whoever there is in Africa and Asia, I've made you creators also, but with a small c. You, Benjamin, I made you a creator. You, William, you, Adila, Amina, I've made you creators. You are of El Khaliqeen. And in today's language, we would say the best of the programmers. Isn't that what most of them are doing? I'm going to program a ship to go to Mars. I'm going to program something to get rid of cancer. You don't have to agree with what they're doing and how they're doing it. Just understand that they understand in their brains that they are creators. I'm going to create a whole new country. I'm going to bring America back to its glory. Say what you want. You don't have to agree with them, but you do have to agree that they are positioning themselves as the de facto creators on planet Earth in 2025 going forward. Now, people who look like you and me in the mirror, when we look at ourselves in the mirror in the morning, we can keep shuffling and jiving. Like that Good Times opening said, you know, shucking and a jiving, whatever that song. Ain't we lucky we got them, good times. That's where too many of us are right now. Wasting time sitting on the dock of the bay. Wasting time. Looks like nothing's gonna go my way, gonna come my way. So I'll just continue to sit here and whistle my song, sitting on the dock of the bay. We've been at the bay for too long. It is time. The energies are right for us to come up with concepts, to conceptualize, analyze those concepts, and apply our findings without having to worry about who's going to accept it and who's not going to like it and who's going to hate it. And we don't even have to worry about that anymore. That's why I said there's going to be some very exciting news concerning Nunetics not that long from now. I can feel it. You won't have to go beg anybody for anything if you understand what I understand. The only obligation you have right now is to study hard. That's it. And give where you can give. This is no small task that I have set myself upon. So, you give what you can give. And many of you do. You do very well at that, especially like now at the end of the month. I probably don't even have to remind you. Break a little something off and send it to the instructor because you know what I'm doing over here. There are miracles being created on my side of the fence. So do what you need to do. Study hard. Ask me questions. Call me. If I don't answer my phone, leave it on the message machine. Text me. If I don't answer that, text me again. Email me. I know I don't always get back to everybody, but email me. I try my best to at least give some short answer to let you know that I heard you. But I need you to be in more communication with me now more than ever because we're about to, this whole experience is about to shift. And I don't want anybody to be caught blindsided. When I ask you, are you ready to do this that I need for you to do right now? I've given you enough time to prepare. When you say, when you start to stutter like that, I'm moving on to the next person. If they stutter, I'm moving on to the next person. And I'll keep moving and moving until I find a person who has prepared him or herself for what it is I'm talking about. And it's going to be a wonderful ride. Let's get finished with this. This level of peace. Oops, I think I skipped a part here. Okay. Yeah. It is a slow, arduous task, which is watched over in the same way that a child needs to be monitored from childhood into adulthood. We cannot chastise the child for every infraction, particularly when the child is not aware of its limitations and expectations. This level of peace comes when we shift the mind from attempting to placate every desire that surfaces. Here's the key. The level of peace that we're attaching to the term mu'min, not just Muslim, mu'min. That's a peace that follows you from gestation on into old age. That level of peace comes when we shift the mind from attempting to satisfy every desire that surfaces. That is a person who has become a slave to their desires. You don't want that. That's hellfire for sure. Every material appetite, you're trying to placate it. You're trying to diet, you're trying to do but you hear a commercial that has some food in it, now you're hungry all over again, and you got to go get it. You get out of your pajamas and put your clothes on to go to Burger Fry or whatever, McDonald's or whatever, and you got to have that burger. You're not going to get there with that kind of lack of discipline. And at least if you're going to do that, go somewhere healthy. God, my goodness, get a healthy meal. But you got to learn self-talk, how to talk to yourself, how to talk yourself out of doing certain things that only you know you should not do. And nobody else can step in and say, are you thinking about, you better not do it. Nobody else can come like you used to have your mother do when you were little. This is on you. You cannot placate every desire that surfaces. You have to opt instead to focus on the best feelings. See? Think about how you would feel if you had all of these things that you keep praying for. Stop seeing them as being in the future, maybe. Because as soon as you take them out of the now, you're not going to get them. You'll be asking forever. So take them out of the future. As soon as you say to Allah, I need, you're saying I don't have it. And if you're saying I don't have it, you say I want it. And if you want it, it's because you don't have it. And if you don't have it, you don't have it when? Now. Your subconscious mind doesn't know anything about the future. The subconscious mind that I've been teaching you on for now a few years at least, it only knows the now. You see what makes the now so important? That قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Certainly the faithful ones are the winners, the successful ones. You see what makes that so important? Because that thinking has to be now, even though you don't have it in this third dimensional reality. Sit in the privacy of your room and do those things that I outlined for you in those 3 books on as-salat. Give them to me, William, if you remember them. I know you do.
Meditate, concentrate,
Mhm.
contemplate.
There you go. See how easy that is? Meditate, contemplate. What's the third one?
Meditate, concentrate, contemplate.
There you go. I wanted to make sure you had contemplate last, because that's where you develop your template. That's when you should be able to visualize what it is you're looking for, because you're developing a contemplate, a template. And once you have the template, you can recreate that thing over and over and over again. How beautiful it is. Let's wrap up. So do not try to placate every desire. Instead, focus on the best feelings, the most outstanding behaviors. Think about how you will be when you leave the door that day and you go meet your neighbors or you go meet the stranger. Plan what you're going to try and say to them. At least say, "How are you, neighbor? And listen, I pray that you have the most wonderful day ever." We can't say that to our neighbor. Most of us can't say that to our sister, our uncle, our brother, our mother. Sometimes we can't even talk that nice to them. That's what's jamming up your system. Conflict, unnatural conflict in the mind. Your fitra nature knows you're supposed to be as kind as you can be, at least to your family members, but your family members have spent half of their lives trying to ruin your life. So now you can't even have fitra relationships, and that's what's causing a breakup in the frequencies that would normally allow you to have what it is you called for. See that? We say kul. They say that means say. I say that means call. The word da'wah doesn't mean prayer, and it's related to the word dua, and that doesn't mean a prayer. It means to invite. When you want Allah to start working on your behalf, all you have to do is invite him. That's in the Quran also. So we're talking about developing feelings, behaviors, and attitudes that are most worthy of the refined intellect that's being cultivated within the mind. Peace of mind must become our highest objective. And we must seek to organize each piece, spelt both ways, of our lives around those principles when we can fill that cup without spilling the contents. Fill that cup without spilling the content. We then become qualified to share that cup with others in humanity. When things are all rocky around you, when the earthquake is happening, and it's right there where you are, and the emotions are running high and all of that, and you're standing there with your cup. You got to learn how to get into the eye of the storm, because that's where you're going to find some semblance of calmness. Take yourself out of that and put yourself in the middle of the storm. Middle, meditate, central, a central place. Concentrate, central, the middle of it. It's as wonderful when you understand it. Contemplate. You know what a plate is? Yeah. El-Ma'idah all over again. Contemplate. Con means with. You know what plate means. So what does tem indicate? Anybody know? Stick another vowel in the middle of that.
How about temporarily?
It's in the word, but tell me what the tem itself is indicating.
Temple, your mind.
Very good. And the temple is speaking to two things that are operating in the mind simultaneously. What are they? How many levels of the mind are there? Start there.
So I'm like, there are 3 levels of the mind.
Thank you. Alaikum salam. That's right. Name them for me from the top down.
From the top down, it's the conscious mind,
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say the limbic brain, but the subconscious mind, and
Yes,
then the
ma'am.
unconscious mind.
That's right. Very good. And in case they didn't hear you, you said the conscious mind, then you said the subconscious mind right beneath it, and then you said the unconscious mind.
Yes.
That's beautiful. Now, the people who are real deep in psychology, they know that there are actually 2 minds. In fact, this was something stated by Imam Muhammad in his early years. He said, you think you have 1 mind, but you really have 2 minds. Now, let me explain what's meant by that. You have 2 minds, but 2 of them are grouped together. The conscious mind is independent and separated, but the subconscious mind and the conscious mind are actually one operation. The subconscious mind is controlling things that your emotions and your memory are bringing into its atmosphere. And the unconscious mind is dealing with those things that need to be automatic in order for you to continue living. But if you look at the brain, you'll see they're connected. The limbic and the back of the brain, connected to the brain stem, connected to your nervous system. So there's actually 2 minds operating. But for scientific reasons, we like to separate things into compartments. Okay? So tem means 2. Make note of that. If I ask you to read a tome, what am I asking you to do?
Tone, T-O-N-E.
Yes, T-O-M-E, yes.
A tune.
What is it?
Tune, to read a tune. When you ask what is a tune or read
No.
the tune.
Yeah, if you're reading a tome, what are you reading?
I thought it was to read a tune, like the sound of something, a frequency.
Well, yeah, that too, but I'm not referring to that at this moment. But
Well, you
Okay.
said
I understand.
you said 2, so it had to be 2 of something.
Or 2 related to something. Tone. I know, so you're not used to hearing this because this is language that's used mostly in Europe and those kinds of places, you know. It's old language, so nobody calls this thing I'm thinking of a tone anymore. There's a simpler word for it now. Does anyone know what that is?
I'm reading it in the Etum online. It's saying like a volume or a section of a book.
Yes, ma'am. That's it. That's a tone. Got it? So all words that have the T and the M in them are going to indicate 2 of something or 2 parts of something. A tome has 2 parts as soon as you open it up. It's 1 book. And I just happen to have notebooks with me today. So, yeah, you understand. It's 1 book. As soon as I open it up to read it, you see what I mean by 2? 1, 2. All right. They call that a tome. Tome means to separate into 2, like I just did with the book. If I say atome, what does that do to the meaning of tome?
It negates it.
That's right.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So atom means that which cannot be separated or divided into two. And that's what they used to believe about the atom until somebody discovered smaller components, the quark, and these other things that are smaller than an atom. They used to think atom was as small as you could get. Make sense? So then what is a template,
2 plates,
so to speak? That's right.
so to speak.
That's right.
Okay.
You're eating from two sources.
Mhm.
Yeah. You're eating from two sources. What are the two sources that the human being is eating from?
The outside world or the inside world, or the seen and unseen.
Okay, you're getting closer. You're getting closer.
The
The material world and the spiritual world. Excuse me.
Perfect
Material.
answer. Perfect answer. And that's in the Quran. That Allah feeds
From
us
Bill,
from the sky. Yeah, from the sky and from below. That's why you're called an individual. You see it? See the,
Indivisible.
you see the,
Indivisible. You can't
yeah,
be split.
look, you see it? That's right. Individ means you can't be split. What can't be split? Two things about you. What are they? Your spiritual nature cannot and should not be divided from your material nature, like they do in the high up priest class of this world's so-called religions.
Wow.
They say, we'll take care of all of the spiritual stuff. Just send us your money and go out there and hustle for some more. We got you. Don't try to learn everything we know. We're the priest class. We'll tell you what the religion is. Don't study it for yourself. But we're not supposed to be divided like that. Allah says he feeds you from above and from below. So we shouldn't only be interested in the material. We should be interested in the spiritual development, and not only interested in the spiritual development, but also in the material world. And Allah tells us that again very clearly throughout the Quran. وَابْتَغِ فِيمَا آتَاكَ اللَّهُ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. To seek with all that Allah has made available to us our home in the akhirah, the hereafter they call it. But do not neglect your share, nasibaka, your share, your personal share, min dunya, from the material world, the dunya world. Because if you don't stay connected to the dunya, you'll never make it into the deen. They're from the same root. You can hear it. Deen, dunya. So you try building your house with no foundation. see where you'll be living. You guys are great. Let me hurry up and finish up here. So we're walking around with that cup, asking Allah to fill that cup. Allah fills that cup, but around you is all kinds of commotion. But you have to stay disciplined enough in your nervous system to not spill the contents of your cup. Your cup is full of human excellence in all areas of your life, the holistic life. Excellence all around you. So when you have to deal with the government, you're excellent in your involvement in the government. When you have to deal with the academic world, you are excellent in that arena. See, when you have to deal with the culture, you're developing your own culture so you don't have to submit to the smut and the foolishness that this world is giving you and calling culture. So whatever you're dealing with areas that you yourself were involved in cleaning up because you are the Khalifa, you are the custodian of your own life, of your own circumstances. And if you let somebody else into your house to mess up and muck it up again, that's your fault. So we're living again in a day and time where we have to look very, very, very carefully at ourselves and what we are doing and or not doing in 2025 and beyond. And the power to really rise, or we can even use the term resurrect ourselves, is in how we view ourselves. No savior is coming for you. No Mahdi is coming to save you. No Isa or Jesus is coming to save you. No Moshiach, Messiah, Moses type is coming to save you. No Muhammad is going to fall out of the sky to come back and save you. Imam Muhammad said Muhammad is the leader of the modern world. Well, how in the world is that if he's not here? He is here. You don't know how to recognize him.
Imam, can I say something?
Yes, sir.
Real
Go
quick?
right ahead.
How about a reformer, a reviver, or a
All of it,
refresher?
all of it is referring to a language, not a person per se. These types come in groups sometimes, not as an individual. Sometimes it's a whole group that Allah lets loose and educates them and sends them out to teach other people in the world, and the world rejects them, and we got to start from base one again.
Brother Ma'am, could it be that the word became flesh?
That's what that means.
Yes,
And
thank
dwelt
you.
among people.
Yes, sir.
That's why,
I got
listen to this first. That's why Ibrahim in the Quran is very clear. Ibrahim is called an ummah in the Quran. It says Abraham was a community, but they always mistranslate the word ummah to mean model. They say Abraham was a model. You've read that translation, I'm sure. That's not what it says. Why do they keep hiding what it's saying? And it's very clear language. I've never seen anywhere where ummah has been translated as model, unless it's a model community. But other than that, no, Abraham was not an individual. And if Abraham wasn't an individual, Muhammad is not given to us in the Quran as an individual. Now, that's a lot of controversy surrounding that. I'm willing to take the whips and the chains from some of you kooks out there who want to argue with that. I don't mean in this group. I mean, you know who I'm talking, folks out there. Because they think that the Quran is a history book. When the Quran is timeless, I just told you that. The Quran is 4D, 5D, and beyond. For each era that Allah allows to come in, the Quran is going to be talking to them on the level that they exist on. Used to be on 2D, used to be on 3D. We're leaving the 3D and now we're entering the 4D. And very soon, as Imam Muhammad predicted, we're going to be sitting at the table of the fifth dimension. So if you can't read fifth dimensional language, I hate to say you're in trouble, but you need to just keep listening.
But Imam, I don't keep going back and forth, but I want to be precise on this. You saying a man, and we looking at a man like yourself, have, I guess, taken us out of the clouds since Morris Dean Muhammad. So there is a physical person that can do these things as well.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you on that. The Quran says that your life and your death are as one nafs, one soul. Now, what is that saying? That it has to begin with an individual. The Quran wouldn't be here if it didn't come through an individual named Muhammad. Correct? So you're 100% correct. What I'm saying is that 1,000, 1,500 years later, is it still Muhammad in the desert? Now, I'm not saying that with any disrespect. I'm saying that to show you the bigger picture.
Correct.
You understand? Where Muhammad is referred to as, in their translation, a mercy to all creatures. Was Muhammad in his day and time, 1,500 years ago, a mercy to all creatures? Means the ant, the clouds, those are creatures. They're part of the creation. The rain, the fire, was Muhammad a mercy to all of those? See, they are translating incorrectly is my point. I can't give it, you know, I can't give you everything that's being said. It would take too long. But just follow the logic of what I'm establishing. That's not the Muhammad. Muhammad is but a messenger. What if we were to take that and say Muhammad is but a message? Do you know that a postman in an Arabic speaking country like Saudi, Qatar, one of those countries, do you know what the postman is called? He's called a Rasul. No, in
Rasul?
their language, he's called Rasul.
A messenger.
Rasul is anybody who brings a message. But the Rasul part of it is the message. We call him a mailman, but we don't want him. We want the mail.
Got it. Got it.
And you understand? Yeah, I don't know if I can make it any plainer than that. It's
Not
not the
the.
mailman,
Mhm.
unless there's something wrong with the woman in the house. She might want the mailman. But typically, the average sane person is not looking outside their door for the mailman person. It can be anybody delivering the message. He wants the message. He wants his mail. His check is in that mail, or his
And by
10-day
Mhm.
notice is in that mail.
That's not right. But it's
I know
true.
y'all
You
understand.
want an
Yeah,
advance. You want something in
you
advance.
got it.
It's
You got
almost
it.
just like the prophecy. That you want the profit from the prophecy, not so much the prophet.
That's right. So we'll be getting into these terms because I have to go real slow when I'm interpreting these things. I know some of you are biting off your fingertips or whatever, that I don't keep giving you interpretations of ayat and all of that, but that's not my job. My job is to make sure that it's clear what these letters mean first. Once you're clear and you can repeat back to me what these individual letters mean, then we can go on to translating ayat. Does that make sense? Why should I spend myself translating something that you can't go behind me and prove if I'm right or wrong?
Salam alaikum rahmatullah.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
For me, it's about being an apprentice. The master plumber told me he would tell me what tools to get him. But once I can give him the tools without him asking for it, he moved out and he put me in there. That's the kind of understanding I believe you given to us with the letters and Nunetics.
Spot on. And the reason why you could anticipate what he was looking for without him saying anything is because you were reading his frequencies. You knew that when he finished with that work, he was going to be looking for that tool. So he didn't have to say, it wasn't even a word. You didn't need that. You read his frequency. And it's really that simple. But that's a wonderful way of explaining it. Yeah. Another deep end of the pool, deep dive we're about to go into. I'm looking at the numbers. All of you are staying with this. This is great. We must work to remove all of the artificial baggage of artificiality and superficiality from ourselves, which in the Quran is called Reba. Everybody's heard of Reba. And we think it means interest, inflated interest in the banks. Allah speaks about how there's no real fair way of assessing who Allah is in the Quran. Allah says we can't do it justice trying to figure out who he is. And if we can't do it justice trying to figure out who he is, that's the main reason why we can't do justice to what he's saying to us. Because we're treating him like Citibank. We're treating him like some, place in the neighborhood that gives us our money at inflated rates. When he says Reba, listen to this. Reba is the only crime in the Quran where Allah says he will go to war against you for practicing it. And you think that it means that The bank went from 2.5% interest to 5.7% interest. That's Reba. Allah's going to come and get you for that. Oh, for that, but not for, beheading somebody, not for sexual assault on innocent women in my country. Allah's not going to, that's not the worst crime. The worst crime is for me to inflate the prices of the interest. That's Allah says he's going to war. He doesn't say he's going to war against any other crime. And this is what makes intelligent people laugh at the Quran. They do it out of stupidity, though, because these stupid translators, they're responsible for that. They know that's not what it's talking about. Some of them, not all of them. Most of them don't know. And that's the problem. And that's where we have to step in also, those of us who do know. We have to walk them through the language, starting with the letter system to show Reba is not talking about exorbitant interest on your bank money. Your bank money is not even in the fitrah. It's not even a part of Allah's fitrah. They made that up, that greenback or that paper money. That's not in the fitrah. The Quran doesn't say anything about, paperbacks. The Quran talks about gold and silver. That's the real money, not that manipulated interest that they're giving you. And you're supposed to be able to figure that out. Community groups are supposed to come together and say, this is not right, how much they've increased the level of interest on our money. So we're going to stop supporting these banks. You don't need the Quran to do that. Boy, oh boy. You do. There are things that you, listen, when the Quran says it's in detail, it's not talking about detailing every single thing that we're involved in. That tome would be too big. It's talking about detailing all of the essential information that you know to complete your human life. Complete and perfect your human life. So let's look at this word, Reba, which I'm translating here as excessiveness. I didn't say excessive money. I didn't say excessive interest rates. I said excessiveness. And that's what Allah wars against. It's speaking about the artificial swelling up of knowledge in the head. And that's the reason why Iblis fell out of pocket. His head became what Reba is as a system of excess. He said it out loud. He said, you created me from fire. You created him from that other stuff, that stinky stuff. Allah says that he became estakbaru. Anybody know what that word means in Arabic? Estakbaru. From kabara, akbar,
It's the
kabir.
10th form of the verb being big.
Thank you,
Real
sir.
big.
Yes. And not just the 10th form of the verb, but the form of the verb that means that this was taking place in his mind, not necessarily in reality. It means that's what he was wishing.
Shukran.
If we say astaghfirullah, that means we're hoping for Allah's forgiveness, right? Doesn't mean you have it. So if I say he became astakbara, that means it doesn't mean he was big or great or greater. It means that's what he was seeking. That's what the 10th form means. The 10th form means he's seeking that.
Uh-huh.
See how important it is to have a good teacher? All right?
I got you.
All right. I know you do. And most of you, I think, do. So the war of Ariba is internal. It's not out there in the bank. It's not out there in the central bank. Those are just symptoms of things that are taking place inside of human beings. So this war is internal, and it represents our preoccupation with exaggerated concepts of self and or others. Now you see why Allah has to war against it, because it touches every field of knowledge. Beginning with how you see yourself. That's where it began with Iblis. He became estakbaru. He became overly inflated. That's what that means. Where? Here, in the ego department, in how he viewed himself and how he viewed Adam and the rest of the world. Once you get yourself wrong, you can't see anything else correctly. He didn't see no Khalifa when he looked at Adam. He saw a man of mud and dung. Stinky mud fashioned into shape. That's what he saw. Reba is talking about the war in the mind that occurs when people attempt to justify the artificial inflation of things which Allah created to experience a natural and normal existence. See, Allah created that to be natural and normal. We go touch it and it becomes something exaggerated and blown out of proportion. This includes, but is not limited to, artificial expansion of wealth. That's the Reba in the wealth department. The artificial expansion of wealth. Military, you've heard this next word, expansionism. Like what they're doing in so-called Israel right now, trying to expand their power base so that it incorporates, more than just the original land that they claimed was theirs. So it's the artificial expansion of even ideologies and philosophies. Marxism, artificial ideology, and the expansion of that. Capitalism and the artificial expansion of that. It's not fitra based. It's artificially inflated. And don't immediately say that the people who are promoting it are evil people. These are demons, these are devils. No, they are people involved in the growth process created by Allah. So that's why Allah had to say, I know that which you don't know. Isn't that wonderful? I know what you don't know. So are you going to make one who's going to create mischief and shed the blood? Allah said, I know what you don't know. He didn't say no, that wasn't going to happen. He said, I know what the end of this thing is. It's going to all fit very neatly and tightly into my plan. And once I unfold that plan, those of you who are sincere at heart, you're going to love this. And you're going to love each other. You're going to be thankful to Allah that He let you live through this. People during the time of the Prophet were around, boo-hooing, whining, and crying because they couldn't see this day that you and I are living in. They said the Prophet was crying. This is part of their hadith. The Prophet was crying, and his companions asked him, why are you crying? He said, because I long to be around my Sahaba. He said, but here we are. You're around us. He said, nah, I ain't talking about you guys. He said, I'm talking about the ones who will believe me and follow me, even though they have not seen me. Those people in the future. What did he say in his last message? Those, I'm going to see if any of you out there know it before I say it.
Those who keep the Quran and Sunnah, they will not go astray. That's what I remember.
Okay.
But it may be
yeah.
else.
That's their bad translation. But let somebody else give it a shot. I just want the beginning part. I want the beginning part of that. Those who are
Faithful.
no. Word we've been talking about most of today.
Those who are present.
The ones who come behind.
Yes, William got it right. Say it again, William.
Those who are present.
Do what? What did he say do?
Tell those who are absent.
That's right, Hassan. Those who are present. Take it to those who are absent.
Yes.
Why did he say do that?
Because they would be better in adherence to the message.
That's right. He said perchance.
Mm-hmm.
To make it clear, perchance they may understand better than you who are gathered here with me. So does that sound like that those people were the top shelf people for all times, that nobody will know the Quran better than them. Nobody will know the prophet's ways better than them. You had to live in the 7th century to be the real deal follower of Muhammad. No, that's not what he said. He said, let those of you who are here with me take it to those who are absent. They weren't even in the gathering. The people he was talking about, many of them hadn't even been born yet. Understand what this is saying. They hadn't even come yet. They're not on the earth yet. They're not among our populations. But take it to them. Perchance they might understand even better than those who are here with me. That sounds like an evolution to me, doesn't it? That sounds like evolutionary development to me.
Yes.
All right, let's continue. So we're talking about the categories of artificial expansion of wealth, Reba, military expansionism, the overinflating of ideologies. Ku Klux Klan ideology is an overinflated ideology related to so-called race, which doesn't exist in the first place. Black lives matter where we matter, and the rest of the world that's not black, they don't matter. That's a Reba. How you see yourself, you look in the mirror, you see darker skin, you say, I'm better. That's what Iblis said. I'm better than you. And khayrun minhu. I'm greater than, I'm more significant than you. I'm more utilitarian than you. You guys are lazy, shiftless, stupid, dumb, wasters of time and all. I'm going to come in and get the job done. God has to choose me. I'm the man. This is how these people think. And they're all around you. They're right in front of you. They're in your house, some of them. They're on your block. They're in your social clubs. They're all around you. They're in the supermarket. These same people. Don't look 1,500 years ago to find what the Quran is talking about. Always look for what is happening in the now to understand the Quran.
Brother Imam,
Yes, sir.
what comes to my mind is this new wave of artificial intelligence as well, sir.
You got the right word working for you. Artificial. But let me tell you something about that artificial intelligence. It is neutral. If you remember what I've been saying about nature and neutral and nurture, artificial intelligence is neutral, meaning it has no good or no bad attached to it until human hands touch it. There's a lot of good things being done in the sciences involving so-called artificial intelligence, a lot of good things. Your bicycle, your motorcycle is artificial intelligence. We don't call it that, but that's what it is. But what can it do on its own in front of your house, laying down on the ground? Once you get on it and you start pedaling and or pumping it or whatever, and you turning the handlebars and all that. Now, if you use that bike, pardon me, to go by some old lady and snatch her purse while you're on the bike, then it wasn't the bike that did that evil thing. You were utilizing that technology. Make sense, Victor?
Yes, brother.
Yeah, you were utilizing. Allah said in the judgment, he's going to have your hands and your feet speaking. You won't even be able to say nothing because he knows you're a liar. So he's going to have there won't be no artificial hands. It'll be your hands that'll be saying, no, he did that. He stole that. He walked over to that sister's house. He knew he shouldn't have been in there. You understand? So this thing is deep. This thing is so deep. All right, let's continue. And that list goes on and on. Ariba is consonantally connected to the word Reba, which they translate as doubt also. And the word doubt, D-O-U-B-T, is related to the words dub and double. You can see it looking at the words. Dub, which means to give me a copy. Right? or I give you some money, you give me double back. That's inflation. That's a Reba. Now, it is a reference to that which reproduces itself unnaturally. See, it's not just natural, like one cell becomes two cells, you know, that kind of thing. Min nafsin wahida, and then zawjaha. That's natural doubling. But what this is talking about is the artificial doubling. It has nothing to do with earning it or being patient enough to wait out the development or nothing like that. We live in a system now of what they call fiat money. Anybody know what fiat means?
Artificial,
Artificial by what means?
meaning there's no value to it.
Paper money.
How are they making it? Noah?
There's nothing to back it. That's what makes it.
That's right. They're just cranking it out of a machine.
Right.
So that's how they can send $20 billion over to Ukraine. Every time you lift your head, they're talking about another 5 billion, another 20 billion, another however many billion. Where are they getting all this money? They're cranking it out of the machine. It's in the computer as numbers, zeros and ones, right, William? It's in the computer. And
Right.
they're just adding to the inflation by just increasing the amount of money that they're spending, but there's no real money. That's why they keep talking about a pending crash, because it's artificial inflation, artificial, false wealth.
Not pegged to gold or silver. Also,
Not at all. That's right. None of those standards. All right. Now, so Reba, you can see the R and the B there, the Ra and the Bait, connected also to the word Reba. This is a different word in the Quran. La Reba fihi. See? No doubt, Allah says in the Kitab, Al-Kitab. And the word doubt is related to the words dub and double. It is a reference to that which reproduces itself unnaturally. When we allow the natural, untainted knowledge provided by the fitrah to grow within us, this becomes the gold, and I might add the silver, which Allah gives increase to, which can benefit all of humanity when it is properly distributed. How wonderful is that? We're moving into that era. Keep your eyes open. In the Quran, Allah is speaking to ideas which form the basis of our distinct thoughts and ideologies, which layer themselves within the psyche. These thoughts and these ideas, these ideologies, these philosophies, they layer themselves within the psyche, some of which we nourish and others of which we must kill, delete, or at least educate. So when Allah talks about killing the kafir, he's talking about killing those ideas within your very psyche. Too much for some of you, I know. When he talks about making war against the people of Reba, those are the ones he wants you to kill, but they're right here. Allah's not speaking to them out there. He's speaking to you and me right here. This is the meaning of the word kafir, that which covers. See, kafir, cover. It covers over what? Over the fitrah-based mind. And it does so as artificial behaviors. It's your behavior that's covering you. If you're a thief, the thief behavior is covering over you. If you're a rapist, a lunatic, whatever negative thing you might be, that behavior is covering over you. And they are planted by social conspirators as weeds intended to choke out the life of our very souls. El Kafirun, there's a surah on them, look it up, represents not people per se, but moral principles which govern over an individual's ideas and ideals. especially those ideas that form the basis of a person's belief system, which serves to shape the policies related to their economic, academic, religious, and cultural norms. This is how the Kufar take control of the entire planet. So they're not over in Libya somewhere. They're not over in Eastern Europe. They're not even over. They're there, but not in the way that we think they're there. They're not the division between the Jews and the Christians, or the Jews and the Muslims in the Middle East. That's not what Allah is talking about in the Quran. When he says kafir, he could have easily said the Jews, the Christians. I'm talking about them. He called one of those groups the closest to you in faith. Because Christians, closest to you are those who say we are Christians. Then he called the other one a part of the people of the book, Ahl al-Kitab. And then he went on to say that those who have faith, and the Jews and the Christians, he went to say all of y'all could be in heaven if you want to. So who's zooming who here? It's these intentionally corrupt translators and the unfortunate and unwitting partners called the mistaken translators, the ones who make mistakes throughout their translations. That has to change, and it's starting now. Let's finish up here. Allah says, Alif Lam Mim. ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين. See? Al-Kitab la Reba, the word we've been discussing that's related to Reba. And in the same way that Reba is the artificial expansion of wealth or your ego, it could be the artificial expansion of Reba is saying the same thing. We say, well, how does that mean doubt? I told you doubt is related to the word dub and double. So how does this make sense, instructor? Because when people exaggerate, you tend to not believe them. When they try to double their image in front of you, like I'm the baddest man in town, you know he ain't the baddest man. He's just talking. At least underneath your breath, you're saying, yeah, oh, yeah, right, okay, yeah. Meet you in a dark alley and see what happens. So we tend to doubt things that are exaggerated. I would have used the translation that there is no exaggeration in it, in Al-Kitab, because there's no artificial anything in it, if you're reading it correctly. So Ariba is also related to the English words robe. You see the R and the B? What is a robe? It's not your skin. It's an extended or expanded version of your skin. It does what your skin does. It keeps you warm, but it is not you. What about your rib? If you breathe in enough, the ribs are going to artificially expand. What do I mean by artificially? It means that when you stop at that point where you can breathe in no more oxygen, you can't stay there. You got to release the air, and the ribs have to come back to their normal positioning. When somebody rubs you, when they rub you the wrong way, right? You're going to become perturbed until they stop messing with you. If I'm rubbing away a tattoo or something, and I have to scrub it or whatever, if I have the right chemicals or whatever, I'm pretty soon it's not there anymore. It's gone because it's temporary. When I rob somebody of their wealth, I'm artificially inflating my pockets. That's not my money. I've artificially increased my wealth through robbing somebody. So inshallah, I think I did a pretty good job today.
Alhamdulillah, you did.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, I was
For sure, for sure, for sure.
yeah, I was
Muntaz, Muntaz.
alhamdulillah, I was hoping
I
I
have a
was able
question,
to finish it.
Instructor. Where does Rabb fit in with this explanation then? Like Allah as our Rabb.
Oh, good question. Okay. R-A-B-B. Allah as our Rabb means He is the one who is giving all of us expansion through what is called involution and evolution. I did a whole class on that. I'll try to find it and resend it to you guys. But life comes into existence through a process of involution, meaning things becoming involved with each other on a level that we can't see physically. Things come out of the invisible into the visible, out of what's called el-ghaib into the manifest. Just like the infant. Where is that infant in the womb of its mother before you saw it, before you see it? It is going through a process of involved matter, matter that is involved in a particular creative process that we can't see. We're not privy to it. And then we say, oh, there's a life form there, and it's growing. And oh wow, it has eyes now. It has nubs that grow into fingers and toes now. He's looking through his looking glass, the doctor, right? So this life form is constantly being given increase. You understand, Noah?
Yes, I understand. Nothing artificial about it. Is it the two baits in there that kind of changes that expression of the exaggeration or the excessiveness? Or is there something about that that's still baked into the word, but being that it comes from Allah, it's fitra based?
That's a great question. Remember, everything in nature is neutral. So there's no negative anything attached to this Rabb. Well, there's never anything attached to Rabb, but there is nothing attached negative, not even to Raib, until we come into the picture and begin to manipulate it with our own hands. Rabb means the movement and evolution of the two houses, the two baits. Baba, BB, R-A-B-B. The two houses, the first one is the house of involution that I just discussed. The second one is the house of evolution that happens after we leave the mother's womb and come into the world and continue to evolve. We're still even becoming involved while we're out of the womb because there's still things that we don't do. We don't speak language. We can't stand up. We can't walk. We can't, do these things. So we're still in the process of involution. You have to look that word up. It's in the etymology dictionary. Look it up. We're involved. And then when we come out here, that's when the process of evolving or evolution takes place. And Allah is in charge of both of those developments. Is that a little easier to understand?
Yes, I understand. I do understand this, the concept, based off how we learned it pretty well. I just, noticed that, of course, there's a consonantal connections, and I just wanted I had to get reminded that, like you said, the fitra is neutral. So it's the connotations that we put to things, and then we always operate by that first.
That's right.
I'm sorry, I have to give a shout out to Mahir. I found a post. I can't remember the guy's name. I think it's Yusuf.
I think he's here with us.
He is here, and I see him. So that's why I wanted to say, I'm going to share it with you, Instructor, so you can share it with the class. But there was a post on Instagram that got a lot of views, and Mahir shared his story about the Cherokee Indians being Muslim already.
Okay.
And whoever this person is who posted it must have like some type of social media presence in like the Muslim community. But they told his story in that post. So I'll share it.
Please do. How soon can you get that to me?
Yeah. He got at least like 60K hits or something like that.
How soon can you send that to me?
After I have to finish baking the bread. I gotta cook, so sometimes I gotta stop writing
Okay.
notes and
I just
cook
want to
in
know.
the
Well, I'll send it. If I
Yeah.
happen to send this replay before that, then I'll send yours when I receive yours.
Okay, I'll try to do it as like within an hour.
Oh, okay, fine. Yeah, we get 2 for 1 today. That's great.
Cool.
Mahir. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
I knew it was going to be my hair.
Salamun alaikum.
Yeah. How are you, my friend?
I was just listening. Listen, I did not jump in and give any commentary on today's session because it is packed and it's going to take me a minute to unpack. And you did most of the work with the connections, talking
that
about the higher realms,
you know
and
that
as such.
the microphone is open to you next week if you want it.
Yeah, absolutely. But the sister, I want to speak real briefly to what the sister was saying. I came across something like that as well. And there's a sister named, I think she lives in Holland. Hold on a minute. Can you hear me? Okay. A call was trying to interrupt this session here. Can you hear me?
No, we're good. Yeah. You're loud and
Okay.
clear.
So there's a sister, I think her name is Raisa. I may be pronouncing her name wrong, but I think she's either in Switzerland or Holland. Okay. One of those two places. And anyway, she's reached out to me because she found me on Facebook and she just realized, hey, I'm one of those people who was talking about the Cherokee history. But the article that I think the sister was just now talking about made mention about because of what was going on, how the Cherokees had to hide their Muslim heritage, their Islamic heritage.
Yes.
So I read that article, and yes, I'm well versed with that article. And there's discussions taking place among all places, the Jewish war veterans, and I'm a member, honorary member of that war veterans
you mentioned that.
post.
You mentioned that to me.
Yeah. So anyway, they're looking at me for some other opportunities, but I do have discussions and chats with them. And now they are sitting there because they're recognizing with whom it is that they are speaking with. They always knew information about Islam in America. I'm talking about right now, Texas, all the way across. They already know before this was called the USA.
Yes.
They know already. And one of the older women who's involved in politics, who is because she's a military veteran herself, Jewish woman, veteran herself, was sharing with me what they understood in terms of practices, who the Muslims were, and the fact of how names got changed.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you have the Robinsons and stuff like that. People's names changed to Smith, all these various different things. So she was sharing that with me, and that's the woman's auxiliary branch of the Jewish war veterans. So keep doing what we're doing.
Oh, yeah.
People are paying attention. And one thing that we understand that the source creator is about is the truth and nothing but the truth. And all of the other characteristics, as you understand it, are all coming to light. Right. And it is what he said it's going to be. It's going to spread, even if those in the forest places are opposed to it. They can't stop this.
That's right.
Nope.
Just like trying to blow out the light of the sun.
No. And they are actively discussing that. There's something I was looking at.
How about
that? And this is
literally trying to put the sun out now.
Yes, sir. Now there's something that deals with consonantal connections. In Arabic, the English word forgive, okay, as you know, is connected with ghafara.
Yes.
Okay. So it took me a minute to really pay attention to that because in the Hebrew, they don't use that word. That word, because we don't have there's no GH in Hebrew, but they use the word salaha. Salaha is the word slack in English. So when you ask someone to cut you slack,
yeah, it's right on.
that comes with conditions. Because now you have to wait for the response of the one you are petitioning to cut you some slack for some things that was done. And now when the response comes, as the source creator often has been out of mercy and his compassion, when the response comes, there are conditions that if we are wanting to be cut some slack, then we must do whatever the list of things that is on his list to do and to no longer do.
Yeah.
It is not a word, when they use the English word forgive, it is not the word where it's just hanging out in the clouds and it has no fish hooks into anything, which is what they've done when they um, um, have they done this mind thing to people, that the words that they're using today is just babble.
Yeah. Very
They
important
really
point
don't. So even to say to forgive someone, I pulled up the Arabic word while your session was going on today, and I saw ghafara. I said, okay, yeah, I see it. But it has the same definition and interpretation as the word salaha in Hebrew. It's still conditional. It's not an empty, aimless word. Those two words, they're sharing the same interpretation and definition as what I was just sharing a minute ago, and it's quite a few words. So I eagerly await to help you by the time you're ready to break into the Hebrew language side, because I'm already doing continental connection, and yes, with the Jewish war veterans. And when I say certain words, they give me the deer in headlights stare, because I forced them. So those who have not, because they do the prayer book and all that stuff. So yes, they do know they know these words and how they've been using them. But now they lean back in their chairs for a brief moment and they kind of stare out into space, and then they come back to themselves and look and say, "That's an excellent point. Thank you."
Yeah.
I've never looked at it like that before. That's where we are.
Here's what we're going to do next week, if you're available for it, and that is just share the stage, but we're going to do mostly the Hebrew.
Absolutely.
The Hebrew words that are similar to Arabic words, and go into the meanings of those. And that's going to be the next step up for the instruction that I've been giving. I told people that I would move from the Arabic to the Hebrew and also to some Greek words that have tremendous meanings also.
And I'll be able to help you with even the Greek, because I'm familiar with the Greek. Yeah. I'm familiar with what the words are. And some of these words that are in Greek, people would be falling over out of their chairs if they really knew what they were saying.
Yeah.
So definitely count me in. And and for next week Sunday. And I left you a voice message, which is unrelated to anything that we're talking about.
Yeah, my apologies, because I think you tried to reach out to me over a week ago. Yeah.
I did.
Okay.
So just something to keep in hat. You are considered, and it would be an honor, even if we had to go to where you were. Okay. For that to be done. So there are people that, we highly respect, and you're one of the people that we highly respect.
We thank Allah. Well,
you're doing the work. You're doing the work.
Well, we're doing the work.
And enough said on that. We are doing the work. You're right.
There you go. There you go. I admire your presentations, and you have a lot to offer the people that are with me who are extremely interested in your breakdown of these things.
And I did view that video of the live when I was in the session, when you did say what you was going to do with the language. And you said Hebrew is next. Well, I was here, signed on. I was listening.
All right. Let's get it, as the young folks would say, let's get it popping.
Yes, sir.
Imam, can I ask Muhammad just a minute that maybe
go ahead. He's here.
But he can give us also how early was Muslims here in the Americas, would be North America, Central America, South America.
Right. I can speak to that.
Because there's some controversy around especially the Rocks Cry Out. That book, I'm sure you went through that.
I'm well versed. I actually met the author Horace Butler here in Dallas, who came. He was invited by Imam Samad Muhammad, who is, from the community, follows the late Imam Warfi Muhammad's teachings and such. Okay. He invited him several years ago, and I gave him an extra copy of the book I had called History of the American Indians by James Fitzsimmons Adair. You can now get that book on Amazon for like $24. Okay. And that book was published in 1775. Okay. Now, the controversy that you're discussing is where things really are. Well, Texas is called the Fertile Crescent because it is the original Mesopotamia. That's why it's called that. And so when you're in America, they break the word up. So you have Potamia is the Potomac River, which cuts into DC and all those areas. The Mesa is everything from the plains of Canada all the way down to Mexico. So they took the word and split the word up so that you wouldn't get an idea that you're talking about an entire place. And of course, we can't leave out names of certain states, why they're named the way that they're named. And of course, there are plenty of Arabian named cities, jurisdictions, and as such in this hemisphere. So what am I getting at? What they're actually saying is that some people are under the understanding, they have the understanding that Islam actually started here. And it went abroad from here to outside, to include certain flags that countries like Turkey, Algeria, Morocco, and a few other spots are now using. So as we were trying to hold on to our way of life here in this hemisphere, our flags was last seen around the 1840s, including the flag used in Algeria. So there's a brother that I'm in contact with now, courtesy of a sister who lives over there and been talking to me for quite a while regarding history, okay? Because they study, they know what's going on in terms of old history. She put me in touch with a brother who is a doctor, a veterinarian, but his history, you ain't going to miss him on. You won't miss him. He doesn't miss much when it comes to history. So he is discussing now in Algeria that he's under the belief that Islam started here. And he's talking to his people in Arabic. Okay? This is not a joke. So I'm not playing with anybody here who's listening. This is what his understanding is. So I had to get a feel for what he was saying. His English is excellent. Okay, but he speaks the Berber dialects as well as, and he counts himself as a Berber, and he understands that there are plenty of Berber tribes here in the Americas, and this is true. I can tell by certain people's last names, whether they know it or not, they're actually Berber. And of course, he has other things to support that.
Please forward his name to me, please.
I will. I have it in my. I have his information. I'll forward the information to. But this guy, oh my goodness, this guy's off the chain. So she sent me some of his videos first, and she said she's been talking to him. She says reach out to him, and I did. And so when I did that, it was, the guy was like, "Man, you a long lost soul."
Yeah,
because we're talking the same thing. That's the first thing he said. He says this to me. He said, "I already know you." And it's not because he saw any lectures or anything I said. Just from us talking, he said, "I already know you."
Understood.
Yeah, because I know that a lot of people say a lot of stuff, and the thing about Imam Bilal, he tries to, well, not only tries to, but he goes in, he dig deep, layers deep. He goes into the language. And he said, if there's some language tied to something, then we can find it. That's it. We want evidence. If we can't, we can find it because the evidence, because we don't want to be talking loosely about anything. We want evidence.
And what our good brother Benjamin has been doing, and others who are helping, the helpmeets. Okay, that's what we all are to each other. We're helpmeets. Okay, and we know that is a verb for it, masculine and feminine. Okay, what he's been doing is first let me make this statement. We speak what we call English, right? Anglais, or the language of quote unquote the angels. We invented the English language, which allowed most of us speaking the Hamitic and Shemitic and Yaphetic, which is just dialects, to easily conversate between the 501 nations that was already accounted for on this continent, in this hemisphere. Because the roots, the continental roots, weren't that far off from the actual languages themselves. And when I say that, Arabic is not exempt from that. So yes, we had outright Arabic speaking tribes here, hence Meccan Sioux and Medinan Sioux. You hear Mecca and Medina, it should draw your mind immediately to something, because that's proper use of speaking in the Arabic grammar. Before you tell someone your name, you always identify the place you or your forebears came from first, so that the person listening to you know with whom they're speaking with, and if they have any understanding and history about your culture, then they can relate to you or talk to you in that manner and not offend you. This is here, 501 nations here. Some of these tribes here have outright Arabic names, but they lost their history over time. So they just have the name, they're carrying the name, but they don't have the history with it. And, and they belong to other religions or some ways that are, perverse from what their forebears was actually practicing. But this is where it's at now. So a sister named Risa, I think I'm saying her name correctly, she is, her heritage is of Middle Eastern origin. So she travels from where she's at and she does these talks, and she wants to, and I haven't set it up with her yet, we communicate, but she wants to try to do an interview to get under the hood of Islam in Al-Islam in America and how old it actually is. It is very old, since the prophet was, period.
Right.
And that's all I need to say. Now, regarding the naysayers to what it is that you're doing, what we are doing, okay? So let's just say what we are doing, you notice it's all devolved and has not gone beyond just whatever the personal attacks may be. Because the information you're presented, the world identifies with it. They still speaking their languages. They ain't got no problem with what you said in Pakistan.
That's right.
In northern India, they do not. And proof of that is the people who come on the platforms that you are conducting your interviews with.
Yes.
You notice that there's equality right there.
Beautiful.
Okay. And they do, from what I watch, when I watch the replays of what you post and you send out the emails, and if I missed a Sunday, I just go and just click on the link, and I'm watching the link, or whomsoever it was you interviewed during the week. I don't see where this person is looking at you side eyes, or they think they're superior to you, and vice versa.
No.
I've never seen that in your videos ever.
Because it's universal. It's universal.
And brother Benjamin, and I'm just going to just say it because of the fact that you're conducting these interviews. You're talking to people who speak the language. That's the key. Oh, I hear somebody in the background.
Okay.
So you're speaking with people who speak the language. So you're not going to get nothing over on them.
That's right.
Okay. And their approach to you is that you're no slouch either.
That's right.
So, the naysayers can continue on, but the source creator has already made himself quite clear about what it is that we're looking at when you come across people who bite and rage they're at their fingertips over at you. They are not satisfied until you believe the way they believe.
Yes.
And when they're amongst you, they have the plastic smiles. We already know this. I'm not saying anything new. We trust in what you, and we're secure in what it is that you're saying. And then he says, when they're off with their evil ones, they say, we're jesting. We're with you.
Right.
We down with you.
Right. right.
So keeping that in
When
mind,
they are off with their shaitans.
yes, and the word is plural.
That's right.
That's a plural word.
They
And
all
I've been
think.
looking,
That's right.
here's a thing that I'm working on, just so you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think much discussion in the Arabia and the root words really do help and speak to this. You know, there's different levels of death. You have those who are the adversaries. And I've been thinking about this for a while. So I'm just kind of whetting your appetite on what it is that I've actually been discussing with other people that I know are studying the subject. I say you have the one instance where you have what is called the transformation. Okay. That we understand that we do not live forever in this form that we're in now. We understand that. But they all have a saying for the various different Arabic words, DEATH. Without, you know, if you don't have enough information, we don't really know what we're looking at exactly if we're just going off of what the interpretation is. So I've asked myself this question, being a former military man. How is it someone is using DEATH weaponized, unaliving people? What is that in comparison to what the source creator is talking about? That's where I'm at. And my discussions with other people, because you would assume, make a mistake and assume it's only one word that's being used, and yet it is not. When you're reading in the Quran, you're like, hold up, wait. This is a different word here. When it's talking about those who do that, and we know the word haraj, the bloodshedders. So Allah has, the source creator has a description for everything someone does. We can call ourselves whatever we want. What's he calling us is the question. Based on that given moment in that time and day or point in time that we're actually undertaking. What if a person said they was a Muslim? Yeah, but what does the source creator say based on what we know, based on this evidence? What is the creator calling that individual at this moment? He's calling them a kafara. Why? Because they're involved in covering stuff up. So we have to go with what the source creator is saying, not all the time what somebody's telling us that they are. And likewise, this thing with death, here's where I'm going, Brother Ben. Here's where I'm going, because, you know, considering some other scriptural writings as well, too. In the book of Ezekiel, it talks about people who have been funeralized. The same word, kiburut, kibara, is this what Q is the same word in Arabia. It means the same thing. After your time is finished here, you're funeralized, whatever that process is. Okay, you're either entombed or you're buried in the ground or whatever the case might be. That whole process means to be funeralized. But look at the consonantal letters, QBR, not KBR, QBR. And whatever they said of those who came down and put the woes upon the peoples in general, the populations in earth, when they came, one of the woes was death. And one of the things that the source creator on the grand day of bringing everyone, you know, and mind you, we have to use our higher dimensional minds when talking about this, so it's not so literal the way I'm describing it now. Why is it he has to free us from death, and why will death be converted to a lamb and be slaughtered? I mean, that's the Islamic narrative. Why would you do that? Who does that particular death work for? That's where I'm at using military mind. Who is that in comparison to what the source creator is talking about? And the prison that we were being released from or freed from it's the hardest bondage that any of us, unimaginable, have served, and we weren't aware. But we will be made aware once the source creator does what he does. And there will be no question about who the source creator is. That's where I'm at. So I'm in these books. I'm looking at what is happening, and I'm seeing death all over the place, so to speak, at least in the English, right? And getting behind these words, including Greek. That's why it's important too. And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute, this is not the same thing going on here. This one here with the Rahma, this is the one who is freeing everyone from whatever it was. So that's where I'm at.
I'm happy you're there, and I want you to expand upon that this time next week.
Yes, sir.
When everybody's brains are fresh.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Just
I want them
something.
to
Yes.
I want them to be able to absorb it. And sometimes after 3 or 4 straight hours of teaching, folks are. I was really just trying to be out of here by 5. You didn't know that, but
I'll try to have as much supporting documentation, starting with Quran, and definitely the Tanakh, the Hebrew scriptures, because a lot of those words are the same as the Arabic words.
Yeah.
But it's the storylines associated with how that is being understood.
So bring it to us this time next week, and we'll be happy to indulge you. Appreciate
Yes,
you
sir.
showing up.
Thank you, and thank you all in the listening audience.
All right.
And I hope I answered the sister's question about the article that she saw up there, because I also saw that as well too. Someone actually sent that to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, yep, I know. Hidden history, this, that, and the other. Yes, we're discussing it with the Jewish war veterans post, that I'm a member of. We under the hood, and they already know I've been under the hood because they see my overalls.
All right. All right, folks, gotta go. No time
All right
for
now.
questions. Gotta
Looking
get out of
forward,
here.
man. Yeah, looking forward.
Take care
Yes,
of
sir.
family business.
Looking forward to everyone. All right now.
Greetings to everyone. Greetings to
Thank
your
you for your
families.
patience.
Thank you.
And we
Thank
thank
you.
Allah. We thank Allah for everything that He is doing in developing this methodology, bringing together true friends and people of insight. No Rudy Poos among us, just people of insight. And I appreciate you as I greet you in the greetings of peace that obligate each and every one of us to keep the peace. Salamun alaikum to you all. Thank you.
Walaikum salam.
Assalamu alaikum.
All right.